Hello, and welcome to another episode of Some of Our Parts, the podcast where two friends talk about the movies that add up to make us who we are. I'm Lindsay,
And I'm Jim.
and this week, Jim picked the movie. So, Jim, tell us about what you had us watch and what made you pick it.
This movie came out in 1977. Again, it was made a huge impact on not just me in a small town in West Virginia, but also the rest of the world. It's the original Star Wars movie. And at the time when it came out, it was Star Wars. It wasn't A New Hope, Episode 4. It was just Star Wars. So
Mhm.
I picked it because I was a huge science fiction fan of
Mhm.
literature and the old 50s and 60s B movies. So when this came out, and it was a science fiction movie, and they weren't really doing a lot of science fiction movies
Mhm.
in the 70s and so on. So this was a big deal, and we'd never seen anything like this. So it made a huge impression. Well, like I said, not on just me, but the rest of the world. So,
Yeah.
and look where we're at now. But who would have thunk,
Right.
48 years or 40, 47 years ago that, this movie would make such a huge hit.
Right. Now
So, but
there's a
so
million
that's what I
Star
picked.
Wars things.
So I'm assuming you've seen the movie.
I
So
have seen it many times. Yes. Obviously not when it came out. I
have you ever
was
seen it on the big screen?
I don't think so.
I'm wondering if they'll come out with a 50th anniversary on the big screen release, because I will say that's the first I saw
Hmm.
and the movie begs to be seen
Yeah.
on the big screen with the stereophonic sound, and
Hmm.
the score by John Williams, and then just the huge vistas that they show.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen all the ones that came out in my lifetime on the
Mm-hmm.
big screen, but I can't remember if I've seen these. I know there have occasionally been re-releases, but I feel like 50th anniversary in a few years they have to.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like,
I would hope they would. So, but the original three
hmm.
are all all have that the with the the ice planet Hoth and so on and so forth, all those landscapes
Hmm.
and so on. But this one, like I said, the first one, to me, it made the biggest impression, and it was the forerunner for all the rest of the things to come. So,
Right. Right.
and at the time, we didn't know that there was going to be a series of these. No one,
Hmm.
this was for us. It was, oh, this, great movie, and then we didn't realize that he had a plan all along to
Yeah.
make a trilogy, and then it turned into the franchise.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was curious about because, like, in my lifetime, certainly I've seen the original trilogy many times growing up. I can't remember exactly when I saw them. I just like
Mm-hmm.
it was just always there. Like, my parents weren't super into Star Wars, but like my aunts and uncles on both sides uh were and are. So
Mm-hmm.
like they I know showed me like my one uncle took me all the prequels when they came out. He took me every single time and like when the new series I saw it with like my aunts and uncles on the other side of my family. So like it was always there. We had like at my grandmother's house there were Star Wars toys that me and my cousins always played with. We had
Oh,
like
okay.
a little thing. It almost looked like a Polly Pocket, but it was Luke and Uncle Owen's house, that little house, and it would like
Oh,
open up.
almost looks like an igloo
Yeah, yeah,
sort of
that
thing.
house.
Yeah.
And then we
Mm-hmm.
had like another toy that was like a Death Star that opened up.
Oh,
It might have been the same thing, but anyways. So, but the thing that I was wondering is like for me, it was always part of a trilogy,
mm-hmm.
right? Like in my lifetime, all of those came out, which means you know parts of the story that are coming, like this movie never existed in isolation for me. So I wonder like what it must have been like if you remember like to see just this one and not know about like the larger world and the background and what's to come and all of that.
Well, it was like I said, it made such a big impression because all the movies that were sort of like it. There's only a couple, and I wrote them down. That ones that stood out from the 50s and so on that really made an impression, or that were War of the Worlds from
Hmm.
the 1950s, and then The Day the Earth Stood Still. Those were considered
Mhm.
above the B grade movies and so
Yeah.
on. Also, but but other than that, this one was like just the special effects, the costuming, the all the animatronics, the
Mhm.
androids, the robots, and so on and so forth. We'd never seen anything like this all in one movie. Yeah, and so not knowing what the storyline was, because you know things are revealed later on in the movies, and it was like, what? It's like,
Mhm.
but yeah, having no idea what this was all about, it just sort of set you up for that. That you sort of just we just thought this was at the end of the movie. Oh, that was it. There was not
Mhm.
going to be a sequel. Everybody was like, we had to go see it again. I probably saw the movie at least 3 times, if not more, in its original run,
Mhm.
because that was the other thing. It was a great movie for guys. Guys loved the movie because it was action. It was, had all the stunts and the fights and stuff like that. But it was also a really good movie to take a date to, because it had romance,
Mhm.
and it had the hero thing. So it was like the perfect movie. If
Mhm.
even people who didn't like science fiction, or whatever, they would enjoy the movie, because it was, it could be anything. It was like a western. It was like a pirate movie.
Mhm.
There was a
Mhm.
hero to it,
Yeah.
but yeah, it wasn't until the second movie came out that you sit there and you thought, oh, wait a minute, this is kind of cool. Oh, they're the storyline. They have the same characters and stuff, and then you start finding out things that.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was great.
I will also say, as a woman and person who grew up as a little girl watching it, I think Princess Leia is like super cool.
Oh, she was a
And she
badass.
exists like outside, right? Like she does become a love interest, but like she when you first meet her,
Oh yeah.
she's
Hmm.
leading the rebellion.
Yeah,
She's
and
smuggling plans, you know?
and she knows how to use a blaster.
Yeah,
You
she's like,
know.
get out of the way.
Yeah,
I got
exactly. Yeah,
you idiots.
yeah.
What are you
Somebody's got to
doing?
get us out of this mess, fly
Right.
boy.
She's withstanding torture from Darth Vader.
Exactly, and stands up
Not
to Darth Vader, being all of what, 5 foot whatever she was, and
teeny
maybe a
tiny.
hundred pounds soaking wet
Hmm.
with that hairdo
I know the most of the weight is in the buns.
easily. So yeah, you know what? Thinking back, you're right. It even predates some of the other movies where you have a strong woman character.
Hmm. Like Alien.
Very, yeah, very well done. Yeah, exactly. So, but this was what, 10 years before, or even before Alien. So,
It was only a couple years before Alien.
oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah, before the original Alien. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
but
But anyways, yeah,
yes.
like you said, it still kind of predates
Mm-hmm. I
Ripley.
Yeah,
But
and because the title character, when you see the movie poster, and there were several different ones, and I remember the original one, Luke holding the lightsaber,
hmm
Leia sort of clinging onto him, and
hmm
then Darth's helmet in the background. That was the
yeah.
original one that I remember.
Hmm.
Um, but
Yeah, I've
yeah,
seen
and
that.
as we get into the storyline, we'll talk about some of the things that are alluded to, but then don't really aren't really what they seem to be. Some of the
Yeah.
plot lines.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, do you want to start talking about what
Yeah,
happens? Well, first of all, it starts with like the huge music.
I
It's
love that.
you go from like silence is like dun, 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 brr, brr, ba, 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 like super loud, which I have to imagine like would be especially impactful in the theater.
It was great because yeah, the seat shook. I mean, because
Hmm.
and we were, even afterwards. I think I did see it in the movie theaters a couple years afterwards, where they showed them when the second one came out. They would show them together, and as the sound systems
Hmm.
got better. But yeah, it was unbelievable. It was just
Hmm.
that, and it like blew you out of your seat. You were sitting there going,
Yeah.
whoa.
It's such a good score. John Williams, what a
Oh,
legend.
oh, oh.
Still
I,
with us.
I
Still
I
him and Spielberg, man, still
I
working
know. I
together.
thought about that, because we've talked about Jaws, we've talked about Raiders,
And we'll
and
get to Harry Potter eventually.
exactly. So I mean, yeah, John keeps cranking
Iconic.
out the hits.
Yeah, I saw like several years ago, I went to have you ever been to Oregon Ridge where the the Baltimore
Oh
Symphony
yeah,
Orchestra performs
yeah.
with the
We
fireworks.
used to go every 4th of July
And when I went one year, it was all John Williams.
on. I was there.
Maybe we were both there.
We
Um,
probably were. Yes, I do remember it because I
yeah, in
really
like
enjoyed.
2012 or something like that.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
it was so good because
it
it's
was
just like all, like
every
Star
classic.
Wars, Raiders, Jaws, Jurassic Park, Harry
uh,
Potter.
Oh yeah, yeah, yes, I remember that very well because because that was we made a special thing to be there because I really wanted to hear that. Yes,
Yeah,
I forgot about Jurassic Park. Yeah, that's another good one.
iconic too. So, and then we get the kind of classic, now, we know this is a classic Star Wars feature, is like the crawling text to
Hmm.
kind of set us with where we are. Basically, we are a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, obviously. But the Empire is kind of running things. There is still an Imperial Senate, but not really doing much. But there is a rebellion that's kind of brewing up to try to take down the Empire. So
The evil empire.
the evil Empire. Yes, the evil Empire that is, well, we don't see the Emperor in this movie at all.
No,
So
no,
yeah,
yeah.
there is
There's
an unseen emperor. And then you have sort of like Darth Vader as the sort of, it feels like there's like an administrative and like magic part of the government,
well,
right?
no,
Like Darth
yeah,
Vader is in charge of the magic or
magic
the
and
force, the dark
uh,
side force part of the government. And then you have like Grand Moff Tarkin and all of those people who are like the administrative state.
yeah, and I think Darth is a agency of one because
Yes.
because there are no more you know Jedi's and
Right.
everybody talks about how the Force is an outdated
Mm-hmm.
religion and
Yeah.
hocus pocus and this hokey religion and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
Right. He's sort of like Rasputin or something, right? The end of like the Russian
yeah, that's
dynasty. He,
that,
what I mean, there's sort of like this, he's very powerful and like, but he's like into like he's the
hmm
mysticism part of it. And these other people are like, okay, we're running a government here.
right. And we've got
Um,
this huge army. We've got this,
yes,
the
we're trying to
fleet.
build up like our stormtroopers, we're building up a fleet, stuff like that. You could see how they work together, and then you can also see moments where they butt heads. And the problem is that Darth Vader can choke you from across the room. So even
So,
though he is into this kind of hocus pocus stuff that some people think is silly, he still is very powerful. And
it,
obviously he's a we don't really know this yet, but as we see later, he's like a direct protege of the Emperor.
right. Um, and he even alludes to when they talk about the battle star, as you get to it, about
Mm-hmm.
how powerful that is. He goes, it's nothing compared to the power of the Force.
And you can see the other guys at the table are like, okay,
Ugh,
the
okay,
force.
here we go
Stop talking about
again.
that damn force.
Yeah, really. If it's so
Anyways,
powerful,
yes. So the first thing we see a little ship, and then we see a very, very, very big ship. It like just keeps going. It's like kind of flying like across the screen and it just keeps going. And I think the opening shot is sort of reminiscent, I read, of the beginning of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
yes, where it opens up with
It
the
reminds
the
me of Alien too, right? Because you see the
it,
ship that way
E-
also.
Exactly. I was going to say it's almost if you look at it, if you compare them side by side, because I thought about that when I was watching Alien, because I remember seeing that, oh, that's like a lot like, the opening
Hmm.
shot for Star Wars.
Hmm.
So, by the way,
So
when I say Star Wars to this day, I still refer to this movie. It's
yes,
always
yes.
it's always this movie. It's never,
Hmm.
oh, have you seen Star Wars? Yeah, this, it's
Yes,
oh
it
no,
is this particular
it's this
movie.
one. Yeah. So,
Yeah, A New Hope was added later once it was the whole franchise, just
hmm
because then kind of Star Wars became shorthand for the whole franchise as opposed to this particular movie. But this is called
yeah.
Star Wars. Um, Anyways, so in the little ship is Princess Leia. Princess Leia is part of the rebellion, and they have stolen plans for this new big kind of space station that the Empire is building. they have plans so they could figure out how to destroy it. And they're trying to smuggle them to the rebellion. But the Empire, who are in the big ship, have tracked her down, and they fire on them, and they're, they kind of pull her ship in with the tractor beam, and they're about to board it. We see C3PO and R2D2. We meet them as things are happening, and I think we get a sense. I love C3PO. We get a sense of C3PO immediately. C3PO is like, "Oh no, what is going on?" Da, da, da. Always worrying, and R2D2 is like beeping at him in response, and they have their little dynamic. It's so funny that like R2D2 can be like an actual character with like a personality, even though he's like a
Hmm.
robot who only speaks in like beeps and whistles.
You almost get the, yeah, you get the I guess the gist of what kind of emotion he's portraying, or
Hmm.
conveying, by the tone, and the thing, and so on. It reminded me of Laurel and Hardy,
Hmm.
sort of
Hmm.
the interaction. It was like, well, this is another fine mess you got us into, R2. And
Yeah.
R2's like, just follow me and we'll go down this way, and what, oh God, what are we going to run into now?
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think that's it, and that's the sense of the dynamic you get. R2 is like just sort of like roguish, just going into whatever, and C3PO is like, oh dear,
yeah,
oh no,
yeah.
oh no.
Oh, I'm gonna get shot. I'm gonna get bent. I'm gonna get, and
Yeah. We get this sense of anticipation, right? Like the ship is brought up, and someone's coming, right? All the guys have their like guns trained on the door. And then the stormtroopers enter, and there's the gunfight, which is always so silly when the stormtroopers are doing it because they have the worst aim in the world. It is also a little bit funny to watch the people get shot and they're just sort of like throwing themselves.
and
Um,
and I'm guessing only because of the blasters that they cauterize the wound immediately, so there's never any blood,
yeah, yeah.
or
They,
gaping wounds,
nope, just people flopping around.
just flopping around. No, you don't even really see holes in them, except for a few instances, but in the most
Yeah.
part, not so much.
Nope. They're like George Lucas is like, we don't have the budget for that.
Hmm.
Um, then Darth Vader enters.
Oh,
It kind of sounds like that. You get the
oh,
like,
I'm sorry, I was doing that. That was like, oh, did it come across that way? So
yeah, it did. He's huge and wearing this black helmet and the cape and like the outfit and just like super menacing. Obviously, like he has his own theme in the
mm,
music, the
mm,
Imperial March. So I think that creates that like sense of like doom too. Meanwhile, Princess Leia is giving R2D2 the plans. She's hiding them kind of within him and is like,
either that or she's playing a CD.
right. She's inserting a floppy disk.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
kids, look up what that is.
yeah.
Into R2D2, and she sends him and C3PO to a little like escape pod. And she's like, "You gotta get these to the rebellion." Well, and then she records the message. We don't see their message at the time. We'll see it later. But she records the message to her ally
Hmm.
to get some help, and she sends them on their way. Thankfully, the Empire, they see that a pod leaves. So they're like, "Oh, there's no life forms on it, so that's fine." So whew, they get a little
Yeah.
head start because they do figure it out eventually. Darth Vader knows obviously about that the plans were on the ship. Leia denies that she had them. She's a senator in the Imperial Senate, which I thought was interesting. I forgot about that. That like it's interesting that like they kept the Senate around, but we do hear later that they're gonna get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Yeah.
Um,
It's probably, yeah, at this point, just in name only, or just
yeah,
as a puppet or a
they don't have
shadow
any power, I
government.
guess, to keep the like appearance of like
Right.
democracy until they can kind of, as they said, like develop enough like fear
Hmm.
basically that they can rule that way without needing to have any legitimacy.
Right.
um Look at this like political science over here. But yeah, Vader knows she's part of the Rebel Alliance. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's not giving it up.
I'm here on a diplomatic mission.
Hmm.
Um, you know, quit interfering.
Yes, and he's like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
They know that they do eventually figure out that the plans are in the pod. Meanwhile, R2D2 and C3PO have crashed in a desert, and they're just like bopping around, and they have a little fight and decide to go their separate ways. C3PO sees a big ship that he thinks is a transport. It turns out it's the Jawas, who are these like little guys that basically like take droids and sell them.
Well, they're like the junk men
Yeah.
of the planet, and because and I put they remind me of Munchkins.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
They're like
sort of like
little guys. If you have somehow never seen this movie, which again, where have you been? There are people I feel like at this point there are people who like purposefully like I will not see Star Wars.
I think you're right. Yeah, or
For
I love William Shatner in that.
for the people who have not seen it, they're like little guys, like small, like children sized, or like little people. However, they wear like brown robes and they like don't have a face. It's just like dark, and you just see like little like glowing eyes.
Like little dots of light or
Yeah,
whatever.
little like lasers, kind
and
of.
and they sort of talk in like, oh, I'm sorry, they talk in like a little gibberish, sort of high pitched.
Kind
Oh,
of
that's pretty good. Yeah, that's
like
good.
that. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's their vibe. So funny enough, C3PO thinks they're there to pick him up. He ends up with them, and they snatch R2D2 also. So at least they're reunited. Part of the issue with watching this movie currently on a streaming service is that there are pieces added in that were not there originally. So I will note those as we go through.
I was gonna
Like
say
for
because yeah,
example, at this point there's a scene of stormtroopers searching through the desert, but it's very clearly like CGI stuff. So this is
it,
very clearly
this was
added.
not in the original movie. I can tell you
Yeah.
that.
You
So
can tell if you're watching it, like if you go on Disney Plus or you watch it on like TBS or something right now, it's obvious like what's been added in because
hmm
it goes from it's CGI and everything before was like practical
yeah,
in
it
one
was
way
all
or another.
real. It was
Yeah.
yeah, it was the costumes and stuff. So
Yes. So the Jawas, as the junkmen of Tatooine, end up at a house owned by a moisture farmer named Owen. And Owen and his nephew, Luke, are coming to check out the merchandise.
did you
They
think it odd that they had oddly really um, Anglo-Saxon names?
it is always interesting because some of them it's like, but well, the aunt's name is like
Yeah,
Baru.
but his name is Owen. It's
Yeah,
like, not Tragafar or whatever.
right.
You
It
know.
is really like because like Leia is a name, right? Luke and Leia are names, but then you have like
Hmm.
Han Solo is,
Yeah,
then
that's
you get like my favorite Wedge Antilles
uh, mm,
when we meet him later, like Mon Mothma.
my my favorite is Red Six, who is Porkins.
Yes. R.I.P. to Porkins.
And who, by the
Spoiler.
way, I could have played that role. I'm just, if anybody watches the movie and they look at it, I could have played Red Six,
Nice,
and I could have
nice.
done his lines
He didn't have
right behind you,
lines.
Red Three.
And then they're like, "Oh, I'm hit."
Yeah, yeah, I'm hit. I could have done that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
they
it is
didn't.
the names are
Yeah, they're kind of everywhere. They're kind of a mishmash. So
is also then like because Uncle Owen it was the like stepson of Luke's grandmother who, we don't know that
mhm,
yet, but her
mm,
name was like Smee or something like that.
yeah, yeah, it's me.
So it's yeah, the names are like because it's like okay, Luke,
Yeah, it's like
Owen,
yeah,
and then you get Smee and
and
Obi-Wan.
Baru,
Yeah, Baru and
and Darth.
yes, exactly.
So
I
anyway,
always
just
wonder. I was like, is Darth a name or a title?
well, that's a good question. I never,
Like,
I often want
I guess it must be his name because they also call him Lord Vader.
Lord Vader. That's true. So,
So
but
I guess so.
hmm see, I would have
Anyways,
liked it better if it'd been a title. Oh, you're the
yeah,
Darth
this
of,
is the Darth
yeah,
Vader.
yeah.
So, anyways, they are trying to sell R2 and C3PO to Luke and Uncle Owen. I will just say also a thing I forgot. When the Jawas capture R2D2 and they like zap him and then he falls over, That I feel like is a gif I see commonly of R2D2 just falling over. People
Oh
will use
yeah.
it when they're just like, I'm exhausted, and then it's just like him just like falling over.
Falling over.
I was
Yes.
like, oh, I forgot that like that's the moment where that came from. So they buy C3PO and R2D2. At first, they were going to buy a different R2 unit, but it like fully explodes. And C3PO is like, hey, buy that one. You see that blue one? That's a good one.
Yeah.
So once again, C3PO and R2D2 get to stay together. And I also love this part. Luke is like so whiny when we meet him at first. Because Uncle Owen's like, okay, you gotta like clean these guys up now. And he's like, oh, I was gonna go and tell my friends about power converters. He's like, no, you have to clean the
Do your
droid.
chores. Yeah, you got yeah,
Yeah.
before you go hang around with your bum buddies.
Yeah. Typical teenagers, even in a galaxy far, far
Far
away.
away, a lot,
They're all the same.
exactly. So
Um, so they during this time though, they reveal that they're part of the rebellion. And R2 starts playing part of Leia's message. And it's pretty much just a part that says like, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope. Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope.
help me, Obi-Wan.
Yes, help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I don't know an Obi-Wan, but I do know a Kenobi. And his
Ben
name is Ben.
Kenobi.
I wonder if they're related. Is
how
Kenobi a
many
common name?
how many Kenobis are there on the planet? You know,
Right?
yeah, exactly. So let's look in the phone book.
And he goes to dinner with Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and he's like, now, do you guys, yeah, have you guys heard of an Obi-Wan Kenobi? And they're like,
No.
no, I've never heard of that. They're giving that they do know, but they're
Hmm.
not
Well,
going to tell him.
and just to interject too, I made a note here. I wrote down, Tupperware exists in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago, because it looks like that's what they're pouring all the blue milk out of is Tupperware, whatever it is they're eating. So
There you
didn't it
go.
look like Tupperware?
I didn't really notice, but
I
now
thought
I
for
want to
sure.
look at it again.
I did. I really did. I thought it looked like Tupperware, so that all the containers and stuff. And I guess it was supposed to look cool and futuristic, but to me, yeah, it looked like. Oh, I think my mom's got that.
Exactly.
Had the
Also, I
lid that.
do love their little like sand igloo house.
Oh yeah,
It's
carved
very
into the
cool, like kind
yeah,
of
and
yeah.
it's under the surface where you figure. I guess where it wouldn't be affected by the heat. It'd be a little cooler underground, maybe.
Yeah.
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 So.
That makes sense. Like I said, there was we had a toy at my
Hmm.
nanny's house that me and my cousins would play with. We had like that and the Death Star and then like a Boba Fett action figure.
Oh, oh, oh! You had
Yeah.
the good one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the rare one.
I think you could shoot stuff with it too. Like it
Oh,
would,
okay.
you press a
Yeah,
button
you
and it
would.
would shoot.
Boy, if I'd
Um,
invested in that stuff back then.
right? Oh my
Oh, I never
goodness.
played with it. Oh my God, it'd be worth a fortune.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the original ones.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, anyways, we know. I think this is kind of setting up this sort of typical like hero's journey kind of thing. Luke wants something more. He wants to go to the academy, whatever. That I assume it's like a flight academy.
Yes.
Because they just kept saying the academy.
Mm-hmm.
Luke wants to go to the Naval Academy, whatever. And but he doesn't want to be a moisture farmer like Uncle Owen. But Uncle Owen's like, well, I need you to help me out for one more season, and then you can go. And he's like, well, I want to go now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this
Again, with
is
the wine.
yeah, I want to go to the academy. But I think this is where like a lot of these movies start. Like I think as we were talking about, there's like shades of Wizard of Oz in this movie
Mm-hmm.
and lots of other things. And they kind of start similarly, where you have somebody that's kind of in a small town and wants something bigger for
Big,
themselves.
yeah,
So,
their lives are dull. They're they don't do anything exciting. Nothing ever happens or anything, and then they want to go out and see whatever.
yes, exactly. So, Luke's being whiny and kind of leaves to go mess with the droids again. And this is an interesting moment because Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru keep talking about him. And I think Aunt Beru says, you can't keep him here. He has too much of his father in him.
Mm-hmm.
And Uncle Owen says, that's what I'm afraid of. And
Mm.
then it's just left there.
Yeah, I know. It's like because you think because you know we're what's he talking about? Who's his dad? You know,
Right. Exactly.
is this Owen's
Exactly.
brother? No good brother, you know, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
because I will tell you, look, I remember back. You know what I thought? I
Hmm.
thought this Ben Kenobi guy was going to turn out to be his dad,
Yes.
and then
I
you
could
know,
see the way the signals they were
mm-hmm,
giving in that conversation,
yeah,
you
that
could
you
see
know
that
exactly,
would
yeah.
make sense. Anyway, when Luke goes back to the droids, R2 has left because R2 had a mission. He's supposed to get to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he said, I'm going to Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's what I'm doing for them to go. So the next morning, Luke and C3PO go to track him down because Luke has some sense of where this Ben Kenobi guy hangs out across the
Mm-hmm.
Dune Sea. And so they're going to go. That seems like a good lead. Can't be that many Kenobis around.
Right.
We'll find him. And then they get attacked by the Sand People, who are a different like species on Tatooine. They are like a full size like human adult, but they wear. It looks like they're covered. Their face is covered in like a burlap sack, but with like little like knobs on their head and like goggles and like a voice box kind of thing.
Sort of,
And
or
they speak like whoo whoo whoo, kind of just like in noises.
right, like woo woo noises. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then a hooded figure comes making weirder noises.
and
Like,
like waving its
oh,
arms. It looks
yeah.
like yeah, like
And
a
you're like, what?
what
What
is
is going
this?
on?
Yeah.
And he scares them away because they've like whacked Luke. They knocked him out.
Yeah. So Luke doesn't do well.
No.
Uh,
He's just like, oh, knocked over. He comes to, and this old man, he knows Luke's name
mm-hmm.
off top. And we learn that this is Ben Kenobi. Luke has some. He seems like Ben Kenobi seems like the impression I get is that there's like a crazy old man in the neighborhood. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, Ben Kenobi. He's like Boo Radley, like of
Right. Yeah.
Tatooine.
Um,
Uh,
he just sort of hangs around and
mhm.
stays to himself and never does anything. Although now we're introduced, to Alec Guinness. Sir Alec
Sir
Guinness.
Alec Guinness. Yes.
Sorry,
So
sorry, sorry. Who I've long admired for years and years and years throughout his.
yes, I looked him up. I have to say, for me, I've only seen him in these movies. But I understand that he was like in like every Oscar nominated movie for like the 30 years preceding this.
Oh my God, he was in Lawrence of Arabia. He was in The Bridge on the River Kwai.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
Dr. Zhivago,
just an amazing
Oliver Twist, Great Expectations,
and
Scrooge.
he's very good at comedy too. If you ever
Mm-hmm.
watch,
Like Kind Hearts and Coronets, The
oh,
Lavender Hill Mob, and The
that's
Lady
great.
Killers.
The Lady Killers, which was remade with
The one with Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah. So Luke is like, hey, Ben Kenobi, this droid was looking for someone named Obi-Wan Kenobi. Are you familiar? And he goes, Obi-Wan. That's a
Yes,
name I haven't heard in a long time.
he does the beard stroking.
Yes.
Now there's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yes.
So thoughtful, don't you think, when he says things?
Mm-hmm. He's being so like vague. If I was Luke, I would be like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, yeah. What do you mean?
Okay, so you
Where did
know
you
him?
hear it? Yeah. Is he a
Like,
friend of yours? Is he a relative of yours?
and
I think he does ask him, is he a relative of yours, doesn't
yeah.
he? Yeah.
And he's like, oh no, it's me. He's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Oh.
well, who knows? So, anyways, they also have to round up C3PO because the Sand People have ripped his arm off, and so they all convene in Obi-Wan's like little cave,
Yeah,
basically, where
The
he's been hanging out.
last cave on the left.
Yes, the
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's where he
so
gets his
then,
milk and his mail.
right, Obi-Wan is telling Luke, oh, look, I knew your father. He fought in the Clone Wars. He was a member of the Jedi. So was I. And Luke was like, oh my God, you knew my father? And he's like, oh yeah, he was a really good friend. He was a great pilot.
Pilot, yeah. Just goes on and on about how what a great person he was and his
Mm-hmm.
attributes.
Mm-hmm. And he gives Luke his father's lightsaber, which is this is our first time we see a
Introduction.
lightsaber. Goes
Because
vroom.
yeah, and this was another thing that we're all sitting there going, "Whoa!" It's
Mhm.
like, at first we thought it was a flashlight, or whatever.
Yeah.
Here's your, but no, it's a lightsaber, which is
Yes.
a more civilized weapon,
Yes.
as he puts it. If you think about back in the 1500s when gentlemen carried rapiers and
Mhm.
epées and
Yeah.
defended themselves, in a classical manner instead of those brutal guns and so on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly. He also tells Luke that a young Jedi named Darth Vader was seduced by the dark side of the Force and he betrayed and murdered your father. Which, as a person having watched all the other movies, is an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, but
At the
seeing
time, you
this,
don't know that.
you
Yeah.
don't know that. All you think is, oh my God, Luke's poor dad, was murdered by this horrible person who just kidnapped Princess Leia.
Yes, which I have to imagine then the next makes the big
Mm,
reveal much. It's like,
oh,
ah,
that's a meme. That's
yes, no, his like Luke's face.
yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
no, just looking awful.
Yes. Yes.
I've lost an arm, but this is more devastating.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think, yeah, having him explain it this way does make that like, galaxy
Hmm.
brain, what the heck,
Right. Oh yeah. Mind
when we
blown.
learn that. So this is also where we first like learn about the Force. Obi-Wan is explaining the Force to Luke, which is kind of like I was listening to it, I was like, this is kind of like a beautiful thing to hear about,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
it emerges from it's the energy from all living things that like kind of works together and kind
Hmm.
of like is in a sense of like harmony in the universe. I was like, that's kind of nice. I kind of like
Well,
that.
it's like, what do they call it in Asian? Is
Like
it
chi.
chi? That's, yeah. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
think of that. Yeah, like chi. It's your focal energy or whatever, and then it
Mm-hmm.
exists in all of us. Yeah, it's like, we're all connected by it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like basically if you are a Jedi, you can learn to sort of like harness this
Hmm.
energy, basically.
Right.
We also see, the full message from Leia at this point. They have taken off a little
Oh,
inhibitor knob off
right.
of R2D2, which is why he ran away. The little inhibitor keeps him from running away, but it also kept him from playing the whole message. So now he plays the whole
Or
message,
so he said.
or so he said. Yeah. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. And Obi-Wan's like, all right, well, I'm going to go help her. And Luke, you are coming with me.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm gonna teach you the Force, like we'll be all
mm,
good. And Luke is
yeah,
like, I like have stuff to do. I have
yeah,
chores.
yeah. I have homework.
Right. So he's like, no. And then cut to our first view of the Death Star,
Oh,
which is huge. It's a big, big, big space station that's like a sphere with has like a little
little,
impression on it. It looks like
like
a
like
little
a dent.
crater. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's like when
yeah,
you get
like,
a bruise on an apple.
right, yeah.
And then but that's where like the like laser shoots out from.
Hmm.
Um
And we meet the head of I guess the head honcho of the Death Star.
yes, Grand Moff Tarkin, who looks like scary old British man,
What's Peter
basically.
Cushing?
Sure.
Uh, Another great British actor, along with Sir Alec Guinness. He played Sherlock Holmes in a
Mm,
lot of '50s movies. He was part of the big Hammer Films movies.
okay.
Him and
Oh,
Christopher Lee.
he was Doctor Who way
Yeah,
back.
in the movie Doctor Who, he
Mm-hmm.
was. Yeah, he was like one of the original ones. He really, really, really good actor.
Played Baron Frankenstein and
That's
Dr.
yeah.
Van Helsing.
So, and I think this was his last role. You can't do the sunken cheeks like he had. I mean, that was him.
Mm-mm.
That was naturally the
Yeah.
way he looked. So, I mean, so he was just,
Yeah, it is very menacing. It makes me think of there's a British comedian named Eddie Izzard.
oh, I love Eddie.
So in Ed and Eddie Izzard's like iconic Dress to Kill, and he talks about like it's just all British actors working on the Death Star, and it's like they just like open and close doors, and it's like, "Hello, Lieutenant Sebastian," and then they like close doors, and that's what I always think of when I watch like the crew on the Death Star like
Death
working
Star.
together, because it is a lot of people just being like, "Hello, like what are you doing?"
Yeah.
So in any case, Grand Moff Tarkin tells us the Senate has been dissolved, and now everybody's scared enough of them that they can keep people in line. They're having like their board meeting, essentially. They're all at the big table. Darth Vader is there, again, talking about the Force, talking about how the Force is the only thing that's stronger than the Death Star,
Right.
basically. And again, some of the guys were like, "Oh, this guy going on about the Force again."
Hmm.
And then Darth Vader starts choking the guy with the Force from across the room.
Yeah, and that's a that's a meme too, where he just holds his
Yes.
hand like he's
Him just
choking him,
holding his
but
hand like he's
he's like, yeah,
choking.
he's like 40 feet away from him,
Yeah.
and the
And the
guy's
guy's
like,
just like,
and you can
and then
see
he
like
says, an iconic line, I think. "I find your lack of faith disturbing."
exactly. So talk about a quote that I've heard that used, and I've used it a couple of times, so
It works. It
it
works.
yeah, so and
Meanwhile, back on Tatooine, the stormtroopers are looking for, they know the droids had the plans and they're looking for them.
and they know
They
the
have,
droids are there,
yes, they know the droids are there. They found the pod.
Mhm.
They have slaughtered the Jawas. And Luke and Obi-Wan, Luke discovers this.
So in this part, they want you to think it was the Sand People
Mm-hmm.
that killed them. And then Obi-Wan points out how accurate the blasts are, and then everyone makes fun of how poor the stormtroopers shoot throughout the entire series of movies. But yet, in this instance, evidently they are like the Davy Crockett's of Tatooine.
Yeah.
Look how accurate these blast marks are. The Sand People don't shoot this accurately. Only stormtroopers shoot this accurately.
Yeah, that is funny. I guess the sand people are so bad that the stormtroopers look like expert marksmen
Exactly. Yeah, they're
compared to
all like
them.
snipers. They're all like Chris Kiley's compared to the
Yes,
Sand People. So
exactly,
anyway, I
exactly.
just thought that was funny because
No,
everybody
I
always
I
makes fun
forgot.
of
That
that.
is not a detail I noted, but that is very important.
Yeah. So
But now Luke is worried, because
big
if they found out that the Jawas had the droids and they found out that the Jawas sold them to his aunt and
to
uncle.
home.
Yeah. So he speeds back home and it has been burned, and there are two crispy skeletons
Yeah,
in the front. So
it's not a good look.
it is not a good look. Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru are gone.
Toast.
Yeah. Literally toast.
Was that part of the playset that you had to, by the way,
No,
that you used?
I think that they were alive.
Okay.
We had them as little
You didn't
people
have them
to.
before and after? You didn't have the
We
no,
did
no.
not,
Oh, okay.
thankfully. It was
Just
not
just
meant to traumatize us.
just
Uh,
wondered.
Back on the Death Star, Darth Vader is going to interrogate Leia, which doesn't seem good because we just saw him choke someone from across the room using his force magic. So we're not feeling great for Leia.
Well, especially when he brings in like I always called it the doctor droid.
Mm-hmm.
The floating thing with the big needle. It's like
Yes.
in one appendage, and I'm sitting there. Oh, well, that doesn't look good. So I guess that's
No.
truth serum or something, or
Yeah.
or
This is not looking good for Leia.
sodium pentothal. That's the one they always use in all the spy movies.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes. At the same time, back on Tatooine, obviously Luke has found his aunt and uncle dead. Obi-Wan is like trying to comfort him. If you
yeah,
had been there, like you would just be dead too. Like you would
exactly.
not
There
have
was
been able
nothing
to
that you
defend
could have
them.
done.
Like,
Right.
so anyways, Luke's like, well, I guess I'm coming with you now.
I guess we're
I
going to
guess we're going to
Alderaan.
Alderaan.
Yeah. So there's nothing for me here. So
Yes. So they have to go to Mos Eisley, which is the spaceport on Tatooine. It is a wretched hub of scum and villainy, is how Obi-Wan describes it. So seems like a
or
great place.
I was going to say, or as I'd like to say, a great tourist trap. So,
Yes. This is where we get another kind of iconic moment, I think, for people who like know quotes from this movie. As they're going in on the speeder, they're being questioned by stormtroopers, and
We called
Obi.
them the traffic troopers.
Yes, basically, they are like
Yeah,
traffic cops. They're like the people that like check your parking when you go into a
exactly.
garage, and they're like, hey, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be here. And hey, we're looking for some droids. These aren't the droids you're looking for. He says a couple things before that, but the one that sticks in everybody.
Yeah, that and you can go about your business.
Yes. Yes. So they get by. He basically explains that like, people with kind of like small minds are easily controlled or whatever.
Yeah, I like so. Which I've been trying to use the force on people for decades, and it's never worked.
Yeah.
So, and
I
I know for
always
sure I had good candidates. You all know who you are.
if the shoe fits, people. Then they go to the cantina, a great place. We get very fun music.
And, and this scene was expanded from what I remember in the original as well. So
Yeah. And
there's
again, if
more
you're
characters in this and more to it.
yeah, it's easily if you're watching it now, like if you like I said, if you watch it on Disney Plus or when they play it on TV, you can see
Mhm.
what's expanded. It's got like a CGI, like a different like look to it. This part is cool too because you see just like a million different kinds of like alien
Right.
species all just like right there.
But yeah, I mean, even like they're not all upright and stuff like that, So um,
Yeah.
I found it fascinating that they all had different types of communication, but everyone seemed to understand each other. That
Mm-hmm.
because Obi-Wan could understand R2D2, I think, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the sand people and stuff, and
Yeah.
other things. So
Yeah. And this is also when we, for the first time, see a nice big hairy guy, Chewbacca. He's a
Chewy,
Wookiee, Chewie. He was nice. He was at the bar,
mm-hmm.
you know.
Just hanging around.
Luke and Obi-Wan are at the bar too. And I love these random guys. Again, two different species of aliens who can somehow
Mm-hmm.
understand each other. One of them is saying something in an alien language, and this other guy's like, he said he didn't like you.
Yeah,
And I don't like you either. And Luke's like, okay. Like, I
yeah.
don't know what to tell you.
I'm sorry.
And then
I'll be careful.
they come after Luke, but not before Obi-Wan whips out his lightsaber and chops off this dude's arm. It's like split seconds, just like zoom,
Yep.
like so fast. And then
And
there's an
there's
arm
the
on the
guy's
floor.
arm with his blaster like on the ground on the floor, and
Yeah.
I guess that again there's no blood spurting, so it just cauterized the wound as soon as it
Yeah.
cut it off.
That
So
really escalated quickly. The guy was like, hey, I don't like you. I'm about to kill you.
yeah,
And then
I
he was
know. It
like,
was like,
I have
dude.
murder charges in like 12 systems. And Luke is like, again, like, I'm sorry. I don't know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
did.
I just
I'm just
and
here.
and Obi-Wan even offered to buy him a drink, and it was like, oh
Yeah,
no, I'm
no.
just going to murder you. So, dude, that's
I,
why you're wanted in 12 systems. So,
right. Obviously, like things are not going well for you,
yeah,
sir.
take it down a
Um,
notch, buddy.
it truly is a wretched hub of scum and villainy, dang.
Exactly.
So they need a pilot. That's why they're there. They need someone who can
To take him to
fly them to
Alderaan,
Alderaan. And they're introduced to a roguishly handsome man in a vest named Han Solo.
who also sets the theme for fall fashion for people throughout the decades of wearing leggings and boots.
Excellent. I love a legging and boots.
I'm just saying,
I gotta get a vest though.
everybody knows when fall comes because everybody starts dressing like Han Solo.
There you go. There you go. He's very relaxed, hanging back there with Chewie. Well, we first meet Chewie because he's the first mate. That's what
Yeah,
Obi-Wan says. He's the first mate on a ship that can take us. Then he takes us over
yeah.
to Han Solo.
That's
And
another thing. He can understand Chewie,
yes.
and so can Han. Although they
Yes.
don't talk to Chewie in Wookiee language,
No, they just talk to him in English.
English. So yeah, yeah. So anyway,
Han Solo is, he's bigging himself up. He's reciting his resume.
mm,
He's like, oh, I fly the Millennium Falcon, and they're like,
mm,
okay, whatever. And he's like, you never heard of the Millennium Falcon?
should
The
I
ship that did the Kessel Run
in 12
in 12
parsecs?
parsecs? And they're
Which
like,
by the way, is nonsensical. It's not a real distance measurement of time or distance.
Right, right.
For all you engineer nerds out there, I'm not
Yes.
an engineer nerd, but somebody made to mention that. So
I think that actually in the movie Solo: A Star Wars Story, we see that happen. The
yeah,
Kessel Run.
the
So
Kessel Run. Yeah,
yeah, if you want to see that, watch Solo: A Star Wars Story. So he's like bragging. They're like, okay, whatever. Can you just drive us to Alderaan? And he's like,
yeah.
yeah, okay. He wants a ton of money. And they're
Mm,
like, okay, here's what happens. We will give you more money than that. But he wanted all of it up front. He wanted like 15,000 units or whatever.
yeah.
And Luke is like, pfft. And then
We could buy our
Obi-Wan's
own
like,
ship, for
yeah,
that, and I'll fly it.
and I'll fly it. And
Yeah,
Han Solo's like, you can fly ships. And he's like, yeah, I'm actually a good pilot. Um,
yeah.
and
It's a
Obi-Wan's
measuring
like,
contest.
yeah. Obi-Wan's like, how about I give you 2,000 now and we'll give you like 30,000 when we get there or whatever.
Right? Yeah.
So
Whatever.
a much larger amount. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm
And
down. Han Solo owes some money. He's in
two.
to Jabba the Hutt, who we have not yet met. Well, we see him in this like updated version. You see him, but you're really not supposed to see him until the next.
Right till later.
Yeah, but he's a big fat worm of a guy in
In
a
more
literal
ways than
sense.
one.
Yes.
Literally and figuratively.
So yeah, Han Solo's basically been smuggling, and he at times he was almost caught, so he basically dropped the stuff he was smuggling for Jabba the Hutt, so he owes him money. As they go to sell
Speeder.
Luke's speeder to get the initial money, and this little green guy named Greedo shows up because he's there because Jabba the Hutt has put money on Han Solo's head. He's put a bounty on him. So Greedo's there. Again, for someone who has a gun on him, Han Solo looks very chill, reclining, relaxed,
He's like,
feet
yeah,
up.
whatever, dude.
Yeah, like he is literally pointing a gun at him actively throughout the
Mm-hmm.
entire conversation. Greedo's like, hey, if you want to give me some money, I'll forget I saw you.
Mm-hmm.
And Han Solo's like, no. And then there is this famous scene where he shoots him under the table, kills Greedo. This has also been a subject of debate over the years of like who shot first, Han or Greedo. What I will say is, in the version I watched on Disney Plus, it does look like Greedo shot first. However, I Googled it and they changed it. They have edited it.
Yes. Han shot first.
Han shot
In the
first. In
original
the original,
version.
Han shot first.
Han
Period.
shot first. There's even people that have shirts that say that. Han
Yes.
shot
Like it
first.
is a thing that people care about deeply.
Exactly.
So, in any case, Greedo's dead and Han is not.
Yeah, he smokes Greedo.
Yes. So they're all going to get ready and go to Alderaan. Back on the Death Star, Darth Vader's mind probing is not working on Leia. So she, as Obi-Wan said, it works on kind of small-minded people. Leia is smart.
Smart
Leia
and
has a
strong.
strong mind.
She has a strong character. He says something along those lines. So she's
Yeah.
very resistant to my methods.
Yes. So they're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Let's use her planet as a bargaining chip. We're going to threaten to destroy her home planet of Alderaan to get her to fess up.
Yeah, Peter
basically.
Cushing's got a much more direct approach. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay, here's what we're going to do. Either give us the plans or we'll shoot your dog.
Yeah, basically. We're going to take her entire planet of people hostage.
Right.
And that's our negotiating chip. So
yeah,
we'll see how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Back on Tatooine and Mos Eisley, we get some CGI Jabba the Hutt and Boba Fett there to confront Han Solo. Again, this was not in the original movie.
Nope.
I don't like it.
But no, I didn't either. It's not in the spirit of the original movie.
It also doesn't make sense because if Jabba the Hutt could find him so easily, why wouldn't he have done that already?
Exactly.
He would have found him and killed him already.
Yeah, and taken his ship.
Exactly. But anyways, Han Solo's like, I'm about to make a ton of money. I'm gonna pay you back. Don't worry. And Jabba the Hutt's like, you're lucky I like you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They see the Millennium Falcon and they're like, Luke is like, you're flying us all the way to Alderaan in this, piece of junk hoopty, like, which is funny because also if you've seen other movies, like that is an ongoing
Yeah.
Like people say that every time they see the Millennium
See the
Falcon.
Millennium Falcon, and it does look like it's been sort of cobbled together, you know.
It's been through it.
Yeah, and it doesn't look well. There's not well. The Imperial starships look pretty aerodynamic when you think about it, but the
Yeah.
Millennium Falcon, I mean, it looks like it can be made out of Legos. So
Yeah. It looks like, you know, when you see someone with a car and clearly something's happened because there's pieces of the
mm,
paneling of the car that are different colors.
mhm,
Things have been,
exactly.
that's the overall vibe of the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and he said he's made some alterations or some improvements on his own. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
He's a
he's got it where it
DIY.
counts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh the stormtroopers are coming after them. They get away, thankfully. Thankfully the stormtroopers again have bad aim as we discussed.
They can't hit
They
shit.
can't they can't hit anything. They couldn't hit
They
the
could
side
hit
of
the
a school
broadside of
bus.
a barn. You know,
Yeah.
but yet, you know, they're the most accurate, you know, people in the star system. So
Yes.
whatever.
Back on the Death Star, they are dragging out Leia to threaten her. She's great. She's insulting them. She's like, "Oh, Grand Moff Tarkin, I knew from that shitty smell that you were here." She doesn't say shitty, but she says like
Your foul stench.
foul stench.
Yes, I'd recognize your foul stench. I knew you were holding Vader's leash.
Yes.
I love that. So
They're like, "So guess what? We're gonna kill you, but first, you can watch us destroy your home planet of Alderaan if you don't tell us where the rebels are." And she's like, "No, I'm not going to give it up." And then finally she does. She says Dantooine, but they know she's lying because they're like, that planet's like way out wherever. Obviously, they couldn't be doing that from way out there. So they destroy Alderaan still.
yeah,
And she watches her home planet.
boom.
And this is when we first witness like the power of the Death Star, right? It's this big planet-sized space station with a giant laser that can destroy a planet. Boom.
We also see the goofiest helmets ever invented by anyone else.
There's like, so are they supposed to keep rain off their backs? What are they for?
I don't know. It's like got a pointy part in the front and a pointy part in the back, and it's like, you know,
Yeah,
and
it's like if you've ever seen Darth Vader's helmet, but it's like exaggerated. Like,
exaggerated.
and I'm like,
So it looks a little like the alien's head,
yes,
a little bit. So
yes.
and if you ever, so it's sort of some of it harkens back, and I don't know if he used it. If you ever watch the movie The Guns of Navarone,
Hmm.
the movie's about these huge big cannon that the Germans had on this little island off of Greece, and the guys that fired the cannon had these big helmet things covered in their
Mhm.
faces and their ears and stuff because of the noise, and it sort of reminds me of that. The
Yeah.
Guns of Navarone is like, you know, 1961 or something, so I
Mhm.
don't know, but that's what it reminds me of.
I also wonder now, like I was reading that there's a lot of inspiration from Akira Kurosawa movies, and I wonder if there's something in the
Could
like
be, yeah,
in
from the
the samurai. I mean,
samurai.
you can see Darth
Because
Vader's helmet coming from samurai
oh yeah,
for
because
sure.
you look at, yeah, because the way it flares out at the bottom and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. That's
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, because it covers the neck for sword
Hmm.
cuts. So
Yes.
mhm.
Yes. Also, I'm just gonna plug here. Everybody should watch Shogun. I have not seen the original 1970s miniseries, but the one that just came out that's nominated for a bunch of Emmys is really good. So
You said that, and
watch
I can
Shogun.
vouch for the '70s version, which was excellent. So, but also, yeah, very good. So I have to watch the new one.
So Leia is obviously devastated. Her home planet has just been destroyed. They just like killed everybody on the planet in like 2 seconds.
Wiped them out.
Um,
Boom.
yes. Our ragtag band of uh men, droids, and Wookiee are flying through hyperspace trying to get to Alderaan.
Oh, so can we back up? I'm just this is a memory.
Yes. Yes.
I have a confession to make. When I first saw this movie, the first time I saw this movie, I was under the influence
Okay.
of something, and when they went into hyperspace, whoa, boy, that was
When the stars like
unbelievable.
turn to streets.
Oh, it was that was like I think that's the reason I went to go see the movie again, and at least 2 more times. So but that, yes, that was a rush, so to
You're
speak. So
flying with him.
I was right there in this spacecraft, baby. So we were
Yeah.
right there beside of him, and it was like 4 of us that went to go see the movie, and we were all like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
So anyway, so
Those are some of the coolest like visual effects also.
that
Like
was
the
yeah.
hyperspace. Really anytime the Millennium Falcon is flying, I think
Hmm.
it's really cool looking.
All of the yeah, and even in the later sequences and stuff, I think all
Yeah,
the
and then
flying.
when we get to like the fighting and the X-wings
Hmm.
and stuff like that, for sure.
Yes. So, but yeah, true confessions. I'll fess up. So
It's the statute of limitations has passed.
exactly. So I didn't have my medical card, but it was okay.
It was the 70s.
Yeah, exactly.
Who wasn't? So anyways, yeah, they're in hyperspace. They're now like kind of on autopilot, hanging out. R2D2 and is playing a game with Chewie, and he's beating him. But it is not wise to upset a Wookiee because they'll rip your arms off,
Let
basically.
this is another one. Let the Wookiee win.
Yes,
That's another quote that sometimes people they'll let the bigger person, let the meaner person win. Let the Wookiee
yes,
win.
that's what C-3PO says that to
Yeah,
R2D2.
he
He's like,
says, let the Wookiee win.
"Let the Wookiee win."
There's a strategy. Um,
Meanwhile, Luke is trying to practice with his lightsaber. He's not good at it. He's trying to. There's like a little floating ball that's like he's trying to fight
totally
against,
looks like a
basically.
miniature Death Star, doesn't it?
It does kind of, yeah.
Sort of, kind of, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Remind you of that? Yeah,
it
or or,
does.
or a tennis ball with lasers in
Yes, exactly.
it.
Han is another non-believer in the Force. He says,
Hmm.
hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a blaster at your side. And Luke and Obi-Wan are like, anyways.
Yeah, right.
They
Yeah,
don't pay him much mind. This is when Obi-Wan makes Luke practice blindfolded. He's like,
right.
you have to sort of
Stretch out.
trust your instincts. Yes, stretch out with your feelings.
Hmm.
This is
Feel the force.
foreshadowing.
Yes, yes.
We'll hear this again later. And then they pull up to Alderaan, but they're like,
Uh,
hold on.
yeah, we're in the middle of a meteor shower.
We're in the middle of a meteor shower. This is where
Yeah.
Google Maps says Alderaan is here,
Right. Yeah.
and yet there is no planet.
Hmm.
So they're
Well,
like, what is
what do you,
happening?
what are you saying? I'm telling you, kid, it's not there.
Yeah, like there is no planet, clearly,
Oh,
but they're like,
what? And just before that, well, while they were traveling, remember Obi-Wan then says he sort of staggers a little bit when the
yeah,
plant, and he goes, it's as if a thousand voices just cried out.
yes, yes.
He says, I felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hmm.
So anyway, so sorry,
Yes,
that
no,
was
no, no.
so again, the force is something that he feels that you can feel even that far away. So
Hmm. Hmm. Exactly.
yeah, so they're in the middle of the
They're in the
all
middle of
the
this meteor shower, and then they see a TIE fighter. An Imperial TIE fighter is,
don't you love the sounds
yes.
um,
And
of
they're
the
like,
TIE fighters?
yes. They're like, why would a TIE fighter be way out here? It can't be, those ships are not powerful enough to like
R-
cover
r-
this distance,
yeah, to be
basically.
this far out in deep space,
Yeah.
it
So
must
like,
have
what
got
the heck?
lost.
Right. It must be lost. Or like, well, how did it even get here?
Part of a convoy.
Right. And they're like, well, it's flying to that small moon over there. And then they get close. And then I think Obi-Wan
Oh
says,
yeah, that's
that's no
that's
moon.
yeah,
And they realize it's a space station. And they're like, okay, well, let's get out of here.
yeah,
But the Death Star pulls them in
in a
with its
tractor
tractor
beam.
beam. Then again, the Force, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vader feels something. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, the plans are on this ship.
Yeah,
We know that the droids are on this ship, the plans are on this ship.
right.
But he also can feel like a presence
Yes.
that
It's
is
something I
familiar
haven't
to him.
felt. And then he's like, oh no, it can't be.
Yeah, he's like, no, 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 whatever.
No, no, yeah.
But then when the stormtroopers get on the Millennium Falcon, there's nobody there.
Mm,
So it's like, what
mm,
the heck?
mm-hmm. It's empty.
Oh, also, but because he knows the plans are there, well, now we got to keep Leia alive. because she,
Oh, right, because yeah, she could retrieve the plans or whatever. So
yes.
yeah, she may prove to
Mhm.
be useful because they were
Yes.
gonna.
So
Yeah,
they're gonna keep her alive,
she's came
which is
really
good.
close to being knocked off a
She's
few times. She's
she's
she's on
hanging
like
in there. She's hanging in
she's on
there.
like our fourth life, or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, so
Staying alive.
there you go. By the way,
So
again, back up another observation. When we first see Leia in the white outfit and everything
mhm.
aboard the ship, fell in love immediately. It was like boom.
Was it the honey bun hairdo?
I don't know. It was just a combo of everything. It was like, damn, it's like
Hmm.
just saying, So
Yeah.
you got to remember, I was 20 years old, so
Yeah.
it was
I
like,
also appreciate though that she's like, I mean, in this movie, we'll talk about how she looks later, but she's just like in like a full sheet. She's just like covered up.
well, yeah, yeah, it wasn't anything, like I think it was just her presence and stuff, but she
Hmm.
was beautiful,
Yeah. Hmm.
she was extremely, extremely, extremely good looking. But yeah, I think it was also the
Yes.
personality thing too.
For sure. She's like
Smart, smart,
spunky,
funny. Yeah,
scrappy kind
exactly.
of
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah. And we
Uh
we learned we get more of that later on.
yes, exactly.
So,
A
but
very, very robust rest in peace to Carrie Fisher.
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So,
In any case, it turns out it's good thing that Han Solo is a smuggler because he has like secret compartments under the floor in the Millennium
gee, who would
Falcon,
have
which is where
thought?
they all hid.
Right. Yeah.
So you know what? Hanging out with a smuggler pays, I guess. Luke and Han they knock out some stormtroopers and take their outfits. Classic.
Uh,
Classic, classic.
yeah. Uh huh.
Any kind of like action spy, whatever comedy movie, you
Right.
knock
Yeah.
out the bad guys and you take their outfits. You knock out the guards, you take their outfits.
And luckily the stormtroopers outfits cover everything, so you can't see their faces or anything else.
Exactly.
So yeah. So
Exactly. So,
by the way, do these outfits look the stormtrooper stuff? When you look at it really close up, it's cheap looking.
right. It's
It, it
like
it's
leggings with
plastic.
plastic like glued to it.
It is really. I mean, really, you can tell I mean, I know they went over budget, and I'm sure the budget was huge for the special effects stuff, but like the costumes and stuff, yeah, this stuff
Not
was
much.
cheapo. Yeah, it was
I
like,
mean, Luke's in like half a robe.
oh yeah, and then like it looks like he's got elastic bandages wrapped around his legs for half of the movie,
Yeah.
and then, um, but yeah, it's just well, like you said, Leia's wearing a sheet
Hmm.
basically with a belt around it.
Yep. Yep. A couple
So, but
darts,
I'm just,
maybe.
yeah, you could tell the budget was pretty tight. So,
Yes. Yes. So they they all need to ultimately disable the tractor beam so that they can leave. So Obi-Wan's
mhm,
like, I'm gonna go take care of the tractor beam, you guys. So they're gonna go kind of break in and try to figure things out.
yeah,
Obi-Wan breaks off from them to go take care of the tractor beam. And Luke's like, what are you doing? You can't just like leave us. And he says, my destiny lies elsewhere. The force will be with you always.
I was pretty deep back then. By the way, I'm just letting you
Yeah.
know. I mean, I know it sounds kind of contrite and cliche now, but we were all like, oh, that was like a big deal. I was like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was all mystical and
Hmm.
stuff. So
Oh, very wise.
yeah,
And they do figure out this is when they learn that Leia is on the ship, and Luke is like, "Oh, we should go rescue her because she's
hmm,
like part of the rebellion." And Han's like, no." And
hmm.
Luke's like, "But you'll get a lot of money probably." And then Han's like, "Okay." He's very extrinsically motivated.
Well, I mean, come on, he's got bills to pay. How much? He's got to pay Chewie. He's got to put gas in the Millennium Falcon.
He's
So
probably got some repairs to do, and he still
probably
owes
it
some
could
money
it,
to Jabba.
it could use a coat of paint. Come on now,
Yes,
just
yes.
saying.
So, Obi-Wan is sneaking around to get to where the tractor beam is. He and Darth can. That's what they had to break in to figure out where to go to disable the tractor beam.
Right, to
That's what they were
disable the
doing. And
tractor beam.
Obi-Wan's
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna do it.
yeah.
He and Darth Vader can like sense each other though. So it is
Oh
kind of
yeah.
funny. He's just like he's not I don't think he's like that great at sneaking around. He's just like
Well,
taking a couple steps and like,
he's
boop.
sort yeah, but he's sort of
He's
like
like right next to the stormtroopers at every moment, but they
well,
just can't.
he does like a little thing with these hands, and they go, "Oh, what was that?" And they turn away, and look around.
Yeah.
I guess he makes them think that there's something else somewhere else, and then
Yeah. He's using his force stuff, but it is funny because he's just like
yeah,
a
exactly,
guy
yeah.
in like a brown robe just
Hmm.
walking around like nobody else looks like him there.
And let's face it, I mean, he's got a lot of rope, like a lot of material on you. I think he'd be
Yes.
at this point he'd be like sweating like bullets. But I'm just
Right.
saying,
Right.
so
It feels like heavy.
yeah. Yeah, you'd thinking wherever they're at that maybe the outfits or the clothing was maybe a little more. Of course, we see this all throughout the series, though.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So
That's the outfit.
yeah.
That's the Jedi outfit. So Luke and Han are in the sort of control room and they're like, "Okay, we're going to figure it out." And they have no plan. They're just shooting
Hmm.
at stormtroopers. Uh, I- they're very nearly discovered. Then my favorite part is like Luke breaks off and he's like, "Okay, we figured out where she is. I'm gonna go get her." Han is left in this room after having had a shootout with all these stormtroopers, and then someone's calling in like,
Yeah.
"What's going on there?" And he's like, everything under control. The situation is normal. How are you? How are you?"
It's, we had a slight weapons malfunction.
And they're
Everything's
like,
okay.
"What are you talking about? We're coming." And he just shoots the like intercom
Yeah,
instead
it's
of
like,
answering again.
Luke, we got company. Hurry up! It's like, yeah, it's
Then he
like
goes, "That was a boring conversation anyway."
you're sitting there, you're thinking, I'm kind of figuring out why maybe you're not that great at smuggling. Maybe you're really good at running that ship, but
Yeah. You're good at the flying, but the
yeah,
subterfuge is
yeah,
not.
yeah, the planning part is not like not foremost. Yeah.
It was a boring conversation anyway. He's so funny. So funny. Luke gets to Leia and she's like her first response is, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" And then
oh, the
he takes
yeah.
off the helmet. "I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you."
Oh, and
Uh,
then he says, I'm with Ben Kenobi.
yeah, because at first she's like,
Yeah,
"Okay,
yeah.
and
Who the hell are
who the
you?
hell is Luke
Yeah,
Skywalker?"
yeah,
That means nothing to
really.
me. "I'm here with Ben Kenobi." And then she's like, "Oh, good. Okay, cool."
Yeah, yeah.
And they get up and go. They meet up with Han in the hallway. Han and Leia are snipping at each other immediately.
Yeah. It's like sparks are flying.
Yes, yes. They're like
Huh.
Benedict and Beatrice from Much Ado About Nothing. For a Shakespeare reference. Because those two argue the whole time and then they're in love.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there or Taming of the Shrew.
Yes, yes.
Maybe a little,
That too.
yeah, because but yeah, she gives as good as she gets, if not
Yeah.
more so. What you know, but I think all along we sort of figure out Han is not the most mentally equipped to, match wits with Leah. So
No. I did write Han and Leia fighting while fleeing for their lives. Real couple goals. They're doing that. Vader and Obi-Wan are getting ready to face each other alone because that's what I think Vader tells his boys, his
yeah, he said
goons.
he
He's
says,
like,
I'll settle. Yeah, I
"I'll
must
take care
face
of
him
this
alone.
alone." Obi-Wan has also, meanwhile, he turned off the tractor beam. He
Of
did what he
course he
needed to
did.
do.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
go him.
Love the
Uh,
sound effects.
Leia's like, "Okay, we need to go down the garbage chute. That's like the only way out." And Han's like, "I'm not going on a damn garbage chute." But at some point, it's like, okay, well, either get
Yeah,
shot or go down the garbage chute.
right.
So,
Yeah, because as Leia pointed out, he cut off their only means of escape.
yes. Um, so then they're hanging out in garbage water, just all
Yeah,
fighting and yelling at each other.
and of course Han tries to shoot his way out again, which
Just ricochets off
yeah,
the walls.
it's electronic or magnetically sealed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's like a little garbage
Mm,
Loch Ness monster swimming
mm,
around that
mm.
snatches
Something's
up Luke.
something's alive.
Yeah. Just wraps around Luke and pulls him down under the stinky garbage water.
That's another one of my favorite lines where they're in there and says, "Well, it can't get much worse," and then they see this thing and they go, "It's worse."
And then it only keeps getting worse because
Oh
eventually
yeah.
they free Luke from the clutches of this little thing. And then, as with many garbage disposal things, they crush the garbage.
Right.
So the walls start closing in. Luke is on his little communicator, like, 3PO! What are you doing? 3PO!
Come
Just
in, come
yelling.
in.
Also, C3PO is just walking around, and the stormtroopers are like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, we're just walking over there." And they're like, "Okay."
Yeah, it's like, well, they're I guess because they're droids, they can't do anything.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think that someone would have said, "Hey, by the way, we're looking for an R2 unit, that's about this tall with blue and white stripes or whatever."
They don't have a description. They don't take pictures.
I don't
Like,
know. I don't know.
you would
It's
think. But yeah,
uh
they C3PO, I just read that he easily outsmarts them because they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just walking down the hallway." And they're like,
yeah,
"Oh, okay. Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Do
Well,
that."
they have small minds.
They have small minds. Finally, C3PO is like, oh, then my little communicator's off. Let me turn it on." And then he's like, "Oh, Master Luke." And Luke's like, "Oh, thank God." And they get R2 to turn off the garbage thing
Garbage.
at the
Although,
very last moment.
and then when they start like laughing and screaming, he goes, "Oh my God, I've killed them." I'm too late. C3PO
Yeah.
thinks that they're dying.
Yeah, he thinks they're like screaming in agony, but they're like
Yeah,
laughing. And then
yeah,
finally Luke is like, "We're okay, everything's fine." And C3PO is like, "Oh, good."
yeah.
He's a
Um,
worrier.
Although we really don't, and then we don't see how they get out of the garbage room.
No, we
You
don't.
notice? I guess R2 opened the door. I don't know. I guess there's a door. So
Yeah, I don't know. But they get out. Leia's like, "Okay, I'm in charge." And Han's like, said who?" And she's like, "Well, obviously you don't know what you're doing to get
exactly.
out of
So
here."
I can lead this mission.
I love this scene where Han, he sort of like runs at the stormtroopers and then like is like, "Ah," and then like runs away from them.
Well, he
He's
turns that
trying to
corner.
like get them to like,
Yeah, he
you
turns a
know,
corner. And it's like, man, there's like 50 of them. And all of a sudden he comes running back.
yeah. Um,
But it also Leah, like she tries to get past Chewie. And she goes, "Get this big walking carpet out of my way." So it's
yes.
that's a classic
Um,
line from the movie.
yes. And then Luke and Leia are trying to go a different way, and they find themselves at a dead end when they're, they go through a door.
Mm.
Luke shoots the control panel so they can't open the door again. He's doing it to like protect
Seal them,
them,
yeah,
to
but
seal them in, but also they're standing on what's basically like a bridge that ends.
right, and the controls that extends the
The
bridge or
bridge.
whatever was in
He's like,
the.
"Oh, that
Yeah,
I shot them."
I just blew that up. So
Oops. So, but somehow he has a grappling hook. Oh, because also they're being shot at. Like this sort of
from
chamber they're
another
in
vantage point,
has many openings where there are stormtroopers shooting at them.
yes,
Somehow he has a grappling hook.
it's it's his bat belt. It's the bat utility
That's what
belt.
I was like. Is this like, did Obi-Wan give you this too?
Well, he has it. I think it's from the stormtroopers outfit. So I guess this is maybe standard gear for stormtroopers because you never know when you need a grappling hook.
I guess so,
I
but
don't know, but
um
he's got one.
he's able to use it to like shoot up and swing across to the other side of this
Classic
bridge. So
scene, by the way.
yes,
Eh,
holding with
The
Leia.
and kiss luck.
Yes, yes.
Because you think, oh,
Mm.
Luke's going to get the girl.
Yes. And you
Yes.
can see later too when him and Han are talking, there's a little
Mm,
little
a li-
little competition.
oh, well, of course, you can't
Yes,
have two guys and one girl without, competition. So
of course.
just
Well,
saying, just saying.
if only they knew.
Only they knew.
Anyways, Obi-Wan and Darth Vader finally come face to face. Well, Obi-Wan comes upon Darth Vader, who is just standing
Yeah.
menacingly, doing his like
And Darth already has his lightsaber.
lightsaber out. Then they fight. Watching this now, I was like, this is not a great fight.
No, no.
No.
Especially when you see it was okay watching it as a standalone but
Mhm.
right,
Once you see, like, the other
once
movies and the
you
other
right, exactly,
fights.
and you see the other fights, especially I have to not that I like the second trilogy, but the fights are much
The
better.
fights are good. Even like the Yoda fight.
The Yoda fight's
Yoda
classic.
Count Dooku.
That's but the one with Obi-Wan as a younger man
Mhm.
and,
With
uh
Qui-Gon Jinn
yeah, Qui-Gon Jinn
and Darth Maul.
and Darth Maul. That is a classic. That,
That's a really good one. That
that's a
makes me I
great
haven't
one.
watched that in so long, I kinda wanna watch it again.
That's a great one. I mean, the whole segment, the sequence
Mhm.
of that. But this one, you're right, but for
It's meaningful.
it
It's a
well,
meaningful fight.
for to
And
see it
all
for
the
the
you've
first
never seen
time,
a lightsaber fight
we've
before.
never seen and the sounds,
Mhm.
of the
They're like,
lightsabers, yeah, when they hit each other, and then
mhm.
just the looks of it, because you don't know really what you kind of get the idea of what they could do, but you think, oh man, like this is, you can just it's like a
Slice
late,
through somebody.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like a
exactly. So,
laser.
hmm
Yeah, so I can see that. It's just like in terms of like fight choreography,
right, it's
it's
very
not.
basic,
They're
yeah,
just like standing and like hitting
hitting and
like
you can tell it's
if someone asked me to choreograph a sword fight, it would look like this probably.
no, I think actually you could
It would probably
actually
be better. It would probably be
it'd be
better.
better. So, but
I've
you're
watched enough movies, but like it feels like they're like, okay, this is but it's also, they have to like animate that and like all this stuff. So it's like I get it. They're
right,
keeping
yeah,
it simple. The good thing is they're close to the bay where the Millennium Falcon is too.
hmm
So this draws the stormtroopers away from the
right,
ship. So um Luke and Leia and Han and Chewie and the droids can get to the ship.
yeah.
And but just as they're about to get on, Luke sees that this is happening, and Obi-Wan makes eye contact with him.
Don't you like though how it's framed?
Yeah.
The
It's
the
like in
the
that little
it in that
sort of
little
opening.
yeah, I mean it is when you think it's perfectly framed within that. It's
Hmm.
almost like a vignette, and then
Yeah.
there it is, for him to see this,
Yeah. Yeah. So when
and you
Luke
got to
sees it,
wonder, did it plan? Was it everything was supposed to be that way? At
yeah.
least for me, it's like,
Yeah. He said, I mean, Obi-Wan said his destiny lied elsewhere.
yeah,
So Luke is like, oh my God, like we can't go. Like Ben's right there. And Obi-Wan, like, they make eye contact. Obi-Wan smiles, and then he like stops fighting, kind of. He holds his lightsaber sort of in front of him, almost like a sort of like praying kind of thing.
exactly,
Um, and then he just like disappears.
yeah, yeah.
His robe is empty and it collapses to the ground.
And he even told Darth, he said, if you strike me down, I will be stronger than ever.
Yes.
Because he said, he goes, you can't win,
Hmm.
Darth. Even if you strike me down, then I will become stronger than ever. And it's like, ooh, there's that
Ooh,
mystical
what does
stuff
that
again.
mean? It's
Yeah, that
like,
hocus pocus thing.
ooh, the force. So yeah, he like disappears. Luke cries out like in anguish because like also like first of all like everybody he knows has died in like the
Right?
past two
Yeah, yeah.
days,
His aunt, his uncle, and then
and then he's like, okay, now I'm going with this guy, and he died too.
yeah. So
Luke is really dealing with a lot of loss in a very short amount of time,
and of
but they're
course,
like,
then we get in another gunfight, and then the
yes,
stormtrooper still can't hit,
still
the
they can't.
broadside of a barn.
So they get away again. I think the visual of like the Millennium Falcon like flying away into
It's
space from the Death Star is just so cool looking.
it
Like I
is.
love the way the stars look and like it just looks so cool. And like that was not you can tell this is like how it looked, right? This is not the like new CGI or whatever. It's like
Yeah, it was modeling. It was,
mm-hmm.
and just the way it maneuvered inside the bay, where it
Yes.
just moves. It doesn't move like on a regular dimensional plane, like
Mm-hmm.
like we know aircraft to move, and then how the back of it just, it's like the lights,
The
and stuff,
lights.
and
Mm-hmm.
then
And then it's like whew.
oh yeah, it is. It's great.
Yeah. Then they're attacked by TIE fighters. They're obviously pursued.
Of course.
And this part I love too. Luke and Han go into the little like gun seats on the
Hmm.
ship. which are very fun seats because they swing around.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
like
gaming chairs.
yes, they are like a
It
gaming chair. They're just
it
swinging back and forth and shooting people.
right, yeah.
But
Isn't
they
that
work together and manage to take them all out. They're very excited and jazzed up. But Vader has put a homing beacon on the ship, which, Vader tells us, but Leia's like, no, they let us get away too easily. And they're like, you think that was easy? We just had
yeah,
to like fight. She's like, no, they let us get away too easily. Like they know where we're going, I think.
yeah.
Because Leia is smart. She knows what's up. She's like, I have been doing this for a minute. This
Ye
rebellion thing is
yeah.
not new to me.
This
You
isn't
guys
my
are new
first
to it.
rodeo.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yep.
Meanwhile, this is also when Luke and Han, like, they both kind of are like, oh, like, I have a crush on Leia. Like, do you think she likes me? And Han's like, no, obviously she likes me.
Yeah, I don't know, you think I don't know, a girl like that and a guy like no, 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 it could never happen, it's
Yeah.
like, no, no, no.
It's so funny. It's silly. But they go to the Rebel base. We get to see the Rebel base for the first time. It is on a moon of the planet Yavin. It's Yavin 4 is the name of the moon. The Empire,
Also, once again, cool helmets by the rebellion guys.
yes,
Everybody has
cool.
cool helmets.
Yes. I like also they remind me their helmets like actual military people, they have the like
Mhm.
sort of
Yeah.
like Top Gun, like
Mhm.
everybody has their own
You're right, insignia and
decorated, like, yeah, their
yeah,
signals, their decals, like
right.
they're
Mhm.
personalized is the word I was
Yes.
looking for.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, yeah, so
So the Empire knows that they're there. So they're kind of setting course. So that the clock is ticking
yep.
here. But the rebels, they're able to quickly, they have the plans of the Death Star finally in their hands. They're able to analyze them. And they realize there is one tiny weakness. There is an exhaust port on the surface that only like a small fighter could get to. And if you shoot into it, it basically goes into like the kind of power core of the ship and it'll blow the whole thing up. So that's all we got to do.
Hey, nothing to it. And well, everybody goes, "Oh, that's impossible. That's crazy." And then Luke goes, "Nah, I've done that. I used to shoot womp rats or whatever it was back
Yeah.
in the, and they weren't any bigger than that target 2 meters or whatever it was.
Mhm.
That's easy. That
Yeah. Looks like it can be
piece of
done. It's
cake.
all good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Sort of at the same time, the Death Star is approaching. They have kind of set course for the Rebel base, and the Rebels are getting ready. They're like, okay, this is our mission. Get your planes ready. Get your little R2 units in the back of your X-Wings. Here we go. Han is like, I'm done. Goodbye.
I'm getting my money. He's like loading up the chests of whatever it was they paid him
Yes.
with. And yeah, he's peace out.
Yes. So also Luke finds like an old friend of his from I guess Tatooine, Biggs. He's a pilot too. And they're like, oh my God, remember when we used to like fly together at home? Haha, it's
This
gonna
was
be
added
just
on, by the way.
oh yeah. That makes sense because I didn't remember that
No, it
from
wasn't in the original. Now Biggs he knew,
yeah.
but the other guy, Wedge or whatever,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
Wedge he knew, but this yeah, like an old reunion thing that was not in the original movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I didn't remember that. I only remembered Wedge Antilles, but
Yeah,
anyways, which is the
it,
coolest name of
it
it.
is.
It's
Yeah,
my favorite name. Anyways, they're getting
besides
ready and
Idaho
they're
Duncan, Idaho from Dune.
oh yes.
Anyway,
I love seeing X-Wings fly. Nothing gets me jazzed up like a squadron of X-Wings. Um,
it,
and they
it, it
take off.
and then reading about it, so George had sent old war movies of planes, fighter planes and stuff
Mm-hmm.
to those special effects guys. This is what he was looking for, and I
Mm-hmm.
think they delivered in
Yeah.
spades. So plus the different type of it was the X-wings and the Y fighters.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, like the kind of bigger, bulkier things. But
Yeah.
but the
Those that
X
are
the
like
X
they were
wings,
the gold squadron
right?
in
Yeah,
the Y
gold
fighters.
leader. Um,
But it's I feel like in every movie, every Star Wars movie, there's always a point where you see like a bunch of X-Wings come and it's like exciting every time.
oh yeah,
Like the best part of like the start, The Force Awakens, when
mm-hmm.
they're on that planet with Lupita Nyong'o's like the little orange alien,
Yeah, with
you
the
know, with
goggle
with the
thingies.
goggles, and they're
Yeah.
asking her for information, and then the stormtroopers come, and you're like, oh my god, like they're doomed. All these stormtroopers are here, and then you hear the theme and see the
Mm,
X-wings like flying across the water, like
yeah.
yes. So
Especially though when they do the thing and then they open up,
yes,
then like get into
like you're
your
like
attack
that.
formation, and then it does the
Yeah.
X thing because you at first you go, what the hell's an X-wing fighter?
Yes,
And
and then
then
they go.
and yeah, I know,
No,
too cool.
it's very exciting.
And once
Uh,
again, this was all done with models.
yes, yes, which is like it just looks so much cooler. So, we get to see they're flying, we get to see them like kind of flying across like the surface of the Death Star,
They cut across, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go in and test out see what's going on or see how good
Yes.
the defenses are.
And they're within like they're too close for the surface defenses to get them basically. So all the stormtroopers and stuff have to get in their TIE fighters to go out and fight
Hmm.
them, including Darth Vader himself is like, all right, I guess I got to get involved.
And yeah, because I love that he goes, yeah, they're too small for our blasters. We'll take them ship to ship. He
Yes,
goes, get the pilots to their fighters. I love that, and it's um, this is actually this is for me this is the best part of the movie.
for sure. It's also funny to me, like this is obviously like the big climax, but it's way at the end. Like
It's way at the end.
I was like, because this is like the big thing that we're
Yeah,
building to, but it doesn't take, it's like, the last like 15 minutes. Like it's very
it,
short.
it really is when you think about it because all this has been building up to this. But you're right, and I still get excited about this when they
Hmm.
get the aircraft the craft ready and stuff because I know this is I've played this over and over again on
Hmm.
YouTube and stuff
Yeah.
because I love the communications between the pilots and the base and stuff, how it switches from real voice to the radio voice,
Yes.
you know,
Gold leader.
go, this is gold leader, how many guns gold leader,
A lot. So,
yeah,
and at this point, once Darth Vader gets involved, the TIE fighters are out there. Things are not looking great
no,
for the
no,
rebels. They're
little
getting
getting
taken
knocked
out
down,
left and
yeah,
right. Yeah. And it's like they can't seem to sort of like, trying to fly close and find this place to shoot and also like defend themselves. It's like they can't do all of it at the same
exactly.
time. The
Um,
the the places are too narrow. It's like they're struggling. Meanwhile, on the Death Star, Grand Moff Tarkin is like, I'm not evacuating.
oh, I
They're
know the
not gonna
guy
be able to
comes
get
up,
us.
yeah, he's like, we found a thing in their plan, and he's like, I'm not evacuating. It's like you ass, like you
He's like,
dick. Yeah,
they're not
really.
gonna get us.
I
Don't
think you
worry about it, you
I think you
idiot.
underestimate our power or whatever. So
Yeah. So because all of this time, meanwhile, like as they're ready to take out the Death Star is charging up to
mm,
destroy the moon on which the rebel base is, and
exactly,
it's
because
getting closer and closer to being ready.
and that's a great visual too with the little thing where they're almost in range.
Yeah.
That little diagram thingy. Where
Mm-hmm.
the Death Star is 7 minutes to target or whatever it is. So
Yes. It's like, and it's counting down. Like, so we're kind of cutting back and forth between the
yeah,
fighting outside and inside. It's like, okay, we're almost ready. We're gonna get him. We're gonna get him. We're so
and,
close.
and yeah, and the people in the control room and the fighters, and then
Yeah.
the Death Star.
Much is happening.
Yes,
It's stressful, but it's exciting.
it's great editing.
Yes, it
It,
is.
it really is.
I think did they win the Oscar for that? They won like all the technical Oscars
Yeah,
that
yeah.
year.
I know they won for sound and I
It's
think
some like visual effects or
photography,
something.
visual effects or
Yeah.
something. But yeah, so but
Yes. Then one of the guys in his red squadron gets so close, he just
oh,
misses the little opening,
oh
and then Darth Vader kills him.
yeah. No, just
Bloop,
yeah.
immediately.
Is it a hit? Is it hit? No, it just impacted on the surface. Yeah, and then
And then it's Luke, Wedge Antilles, and Biggs are like the
Biggs.
last three standing. And Darth Vader kind of takes everybody out, and it's just Luke. And he's like, all right. And he's like, not even, he's so kind of honed in. He's starting to hear Obi-Wan's voice.
Right.
telling him, use the Force. Just, again, trust your instincts, reach out with your feelings. So he turns off his targeting computer, and the guys back at base were like, excuse me, why'd you turn off your targeting computer? Because he's like the last guy standing to take this shot. And they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like, no, I'm okay. I also like how that they know that he's turned off his targeting computer. It's like,
Mhm.
it's like, it's like everybody being connected. It's like,
Yeah.
you just shifted into park.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excuse me, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Also, watching this, I was like, imagine you're the rebellion, and you've been like working on this for years. And this little teenage idiot shows up. He's your last hope, and he turns off his targeting computer. I would be like, are you joking?
Well, I wanted to figure out, did he get trained on how to fly one of them things?
They just took
Because
his word.
as far as I knew, the only thing he ever drove was its speeder. It's
I,
like, I don't think they owned a spaceship. Uncle
right.
Owen and Aunt Beru or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, oh yeah, I can handle this ship. Okay.
They were just taking anybody, I
How
guess.
many hours do you have flight time? It's like, exactly. Yeah,
They're like, oh, okay, I
yeah,
guess.
you're absolutely right. I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, I might have gone to like Han and go, look, we'll give you 50 million, whatever, if you
Yeah,
stay in the fight.
please.
Yeah, because your ship's a lot bigger.
Yes.
But anyway.
Speaking of Han, so Luke, he's turned off his computer. He's like, all right, I'm just going to fly blind. I'm just going to feel it
Hmm.
and just like trust my gut and shoot. Meanwhile, Darth Vader is behind him trying to shoot him.
Right.
But who should swoop in just at this moment but Han Solo in the Millennium Falcon? He's shooting at Darth Vader to kind of just throw him off his course, just to give Luke just enough time to make his shot. And he does it. He gets it just as like they are about to blow up Yavin 4.
Right. They're
Just
in
as they are
range.
reaching, they're in range to blow up the rebel base. Luke takes the shot, and there's like a moment of delay,
And
and then kaboom.
because and I love the scene where it's the guy in the weird helmet stand by, and then
Yes.
and then the next thing you see is kaboom.
Boom.
It's like, and it's vaporized.
Yes,
So
it is gone. Darth Vader
yeah.
is out there in his TIE fighter, like, well, shit.
Well, he's just spinning around,
Yeah.
like he's like,
Like, damn it.
he's like, what the hell? Where, yeah, because he gets bounced off the wall. By the way, the scenes flying through the trenches, that was all
Mhm.
done with a little teeny camera, and the film was speeded up on a model. So
That
again,
makes sense. It
that
is
was
crazy though.
not done.
Yeah.
It was not. They built the model of the Death Star, and then they ran this. I saw a thing where they ran this camera through it, and it just speeded up the film, so it looks like you're flying like 1,000 miles an hour. And when you look at that, you can tell it's not special effects per
Hmm.
se. It's not
Yeah.
CGI. It's just
Practical effects are just
they're just so
so
much
much
better,
better.
so much better.
So much better. That's what, like, when they made The Mandalorian, they were going to make Baby Yoda CGI. And what's
Really,
his name? Werner Herzog, because he's in it, is like, no, make a real one.
make a
Like,
real
don't be
one.
a coward. Like,
Make a Baby Yoda.
make a real Baby Yoda. And so
So
they did. That's why he's like the old Yoda. He's, you know, just a little guy moving around.
yeah. Um,
I just think like practical effects are so, like just think of, this isn't a Star Wars, but like Jurassic Park.
oh yeah,
Like, imagine if the dinosaurs were all CGI. That would be so much less cool.
I know. Oh yeah. No, it's
Anyways,
just it's just there's a whole world of difference, no matter how good the CGI is, I think.
yeah. Yeah,
Well,
it
it's like
just feels so much
Jaws.
more like real. Yeah, exactly.
What if they
Like we
did a
talked about.
CGI shark? Yeah, it would have been the same.
It would have been Deep Blue Sea, which is not a good movie. It's just
No,
it's fun to watch
it.
because it's silly. But
So,
anyways,
anyways,
the
so
Death Star is blown up.
Luke comes through in the end.
Yes, they get back to the base. Luke and Leia and Han, they're like, woo, they're hugging and jumping and screaming and yay. And then Han and Luke get medals. Chewie is there but does not get a medal, which feels discriminatory
I
to me
agree. I wondered the same thing
because he
because
walks out with them and then he just steps to the
it
side and doesn't get a medal.
I
I'm like,
know. He's
um,
like, wait a minute. He was
Han
like,
couldn't have flown the Millennium Falcon without him. He's the first mate.
when they were running from the Death Star, or from the Death Star, and then they were in the little gun things. Chewie was flying the ship. It wasn't like it was
Exactly.
on autopilot, you know.
Right. Chewie was flying while they were shooting.
Exactly. So yeah, I know. I wondered the same thing. I thought, wait a minute, Chewie doesn't get a medal.
I wrote Han, Luke, and Chewie get medals. And then I wrote, just kidding, not Chewie. Discrimination?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, come on, justice for Wookiees. Come on.
Exactly.
Ooh,
Exactly.
I need a shirt with that.
Yes. Yes.
Justice, or a
Justice for
bumper sticker,
Wookiees.
justice for
Yes.
Wookiees. Yeah.
Should make that. Han gives Leia a little wink.
Little wink and a nod. And then of
Mm-hmm.
course, and it, again, at this point, this was the only thing. So we're left wondering, I'm left wondering,
Mm-hmm.
the people that saw it, are we going to see at the end of the movie, does she pick one? And
Yeah.
no,
She doesn't. She
she
doesn't.
doesn't.
We do one positive right now. We R2 was really banged up in that
Oh,
battle.
oh,
He is okay. We
well,
see him
and
roll out.
they're all buffed up. I
Yes, they
put
have
him,
repaired him.
and
That is a request that Luke made when he arrived back to the base. He was like, "Can you all repair
right,
my
this little
R2
droid,
here?"
my R2 unit. So
And they did.
that's the other thing. Well, we see, and we see a little bit of discrimination early on, though. When, remember, they go into the cantina and they
We
go,
don't
"We
serve
don't
your kind in here.
right," and he goes, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Droids, those droids."
Get out. I was like,
And
there was a
seriously,
lot of unnecessary hostility in that cantina.
yeah, but if maybe that was, and it could have been George's, way of maybe making a nod back to the civil rights movement. I don't know,
Could
maybe.
be. They were like the house elves of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, exactly. So,
But yeah,
sorry.
so we get a happy ending. That's it. Everybody's
We
they
get a
destroyed the
happy
Death
ending, but it's
Star.
like we don't know who Leah's in love with. It's
Darth
like
Vader is floating out in
floating out in
space.
space. So, and I'll be honest with you, I seem to remember. I don't back then we didn't like sit there and go look. Oh, there's a sequel. There weren't many sequels.
Mm-hmm.
Not really back in those
Yeah.
days. Jaws had one, but you didn't know that was going to be coming. We just
Mhm.
figured it was a cash cow.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because also this was the same year Jaws came out, so you wouldn't necessarily have known that yet. Because again,
Right.
Jaws ends pretty definitively too, right? They kill the
Oh
shark.
yeah, the shark's dead. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but this one, it's like Darth is still alive, but
There are open questions at the end
you
of
just
this
kind of
one.
figure, well, he's just out in space or whatever, because
Mm-hmm.
they kept saying that they were in deep space. So if he's in that little TIE fighter, where is he going to go? That's what I
Right.
thought. I thought,
Mm-hmm.
well, he's just going to be stranded out in outer space and he's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then the rebellion evidently, lives to fight another day, and then they're going to whip the Empire's ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and again, great score, great music.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, the crescendo, the celebratory, at the medal
Mm-hmm.
ceremony and stuff.
Yes. I think is that like Leia's theme?
Is that Leia's
Oh.
theme? I can't
They're like
remember.
dun, 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 dun.
I mean, it's a variation on the Star Wars theme, but he
Yeah.
does that in every, in every
Yeah.
movie he does.
Did you ever see when I think it was when The Force Awakens was coming out on they did on Jimmy Fallon, like them all
Yes,
doing
the
all the they're all in the squares, like
squares, yeah,
humming all the
yeah,
songs
yeah,
basically.
with all the characters from the Star Wars movies. Yes,
And like Jimmy Fallon and the Roots all
yeah.
doing it. I love I'm just because I'm imagining like Gwendolyn Christie pops up going the dun 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 dun.
I
And then
did
like
make a
all the
note.
First Order people come up with the
Oh, with
Imperial March.
I
Dun,
did put
dun, dun,
when they
dun,
were getting the
dun.
medal that Luke was wearing his members only jacket. So
He
now I don't
was.
know if you remember members only jackets, but
I
that was
do. My
yeah.
grandfather had a members only jacket like until the
I
end of
I
his life
I
in
had a members only jacket. Everybody that grew up in the 80s, the 70s, they had a
yeah.
members only jacket. So just saying.
But yeah, no, that I was all like, oh, okay, okay, outfit on Luke.
And Luke's was yellow. It was like, man,
Yeah.
that's bright, dude. You
Yes.
know.
Well, it's the 70s.
Yeah. So
Wait until we meet Lando.
exactly. Yeah.
But
So to me, this was one of those movies that just, it was just, it was there was nothing like it. It was
yeah.
iconic. So do you, knowing that, when you saw it though, what was your reaction when, or can you remember what your reaction was when
Like I said, I don't really remember when I first saw it.
first
Like it
saw
was
it?
just like there. Like it felt like it was just always there. I'd seen
Mm-hmm.
them all. I watched them all when I was a kid. I watched them again when I was older. And like I saw all the prequels in the movies when they came out and then, all the ones since then.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it was just like I thought it was just like cool and I loved Princess Leia and Yoda, which we don't know Yoda yet, but I
No,
loved Princess Leia from this movie. I'm partial to The Empire Strikes Back as my favorite of the original
it,
trilogy, but
it's a close call.
yeah. But
It's
I
probably a better movie, I think,
mhm.
plot wise and style wise and everything. Because I think they took what, for me, they took what from the first one and made it a better movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this one, like I said, I picked because of it being the original.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. I think the stakes feel different in the second one too.
Yes.
Cuz it's like
Hmm.
especially when you feel like at the end of this movie it's like great, we defeated them. And then
Yeah.
the second one is like, haha, no you haven't.
Yeah, really. Dude, that was like, yeah, it was like a bar fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, oh,
But
gee, did we just spoil the second movie for everybody that's
oh
never
no,
watched it?
sorry everyone. I mean, the title is The Empire Strikes
Yeah.
Back. So it's pretty straightforward. You know what to expect from the title. So
There's no hidden meaning there.
no, it's very plain. It's George Lucas is laying it out there for you. But yeah, I think I just really I don't know. It just felt like Star Wars was like always a thing and it was just
Hmm.
like a really cool thing when I was little, like just stories that were interesting and like characters that were interesting. And I think it goes back to like we said, it is sort of like it's not like obviously the details of it, right? The world and those specifics are kind of really special, but like the underlying story
Hmm.
is like a lot of other stories,
Oh,
right?
sure.
Like
Yeah.
a kid in a small town that wants something bigger and then they get this sort of big mission, right? They
Right.
become kind of
This
like the chosen one
this opportunity
to
for,
yeah.
and that they do have some sort of special talent,
Yeah.
gift, ability,
hmm And then
and
they get to step up and save the day,
exactly.
right? And they
So,
have like mentors along the way and they maybe lose them
well,
and
yeah, that not everybody completes the journey.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That.
I think that part of it I think makes it like compelling like always. And I think that you have and then all the side characters, right? Because you have Leia who's like deeply invested in this rebellion and willing to like give herself up for it and also
Right.
very like shrewd and savvy. And then you also have this sort of mercenary type person who like kind of gets roped in, doesn't really want to be involved, but ultimately like
Hmm.
there is
Buy,
something,
buys
right?
into it, or he sees something there that
Yeah.
is maybe is more compelling than what he's been doing.
Yeah. And maybe it's not the overall mission, but maybe he like, he has a bond with Luke. He has a bond with Leia. Like
Hmm.
there's something there that like draws them back, even though they're like, no, I'm not interested in that. And I think that that's a character you see in a lot of
Yeah.
different things. Of course, I can't like think of something off the top of, but I mean, like there's always somebody that's like, no, 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 that's not my fight. But then they like
Right.
show up
Right.
when
Or
you need
yeah,
them.
they come through, yeah, at the last minute, or when you least expect it.
hmm
They
I think you see that parallel in a lot of the other Star Wars things, right?
oh, sure.
Like Andor.
Hmm.
If you've anyone who's watched the series Andor, like he starts as kind of a guy who just like smuggles stuff,
Yeah.
but he sort of gets roped into this world and then he's like, "Oh, there is a rebellion happening and like I'm I'm part of it
I'm going
now.
to be part of it. Yeah, that I want to
Yeah.
be.
I think that's he's a similar it obviously like it unfolds differently, but I think that is a similar thing to like Han
mm,
Solo, where he's
yeah.
like, no, no, this is not my business.
Well, even to the Mandalorian. I mean, at first, the
Mm-hmm.
Mandalorian is sort of he's like a gun for hire, and he's his
Yeah.
task is to deliver this package
Mm-hmm.
to somewhere else, and then he find no, he said
It's a little baby.
yeah, or it's a little something, whatever it is.
But yeah, I think there is these like characters are recognizable from just like storytelling generally, and so I think
Hmm.
that makes it like compelling. It's like a cool story. When I was a kid, I used to make there were movies that I liked to watch, but then I would make people like tell me the story, like
Oh, really?
as like a bedtime story kind of.
Okay.
I used to like make like my uncle or like people who were like babysitting me. I'd be like, tell me the story of Wizard of Oz. Like I knew it because I'd seen the movie. Or like, tell me the
Yeah.
story of Willy Wonka. Tell me the story of
Oh,
so
okay.
like that's kind of thing. So
Oh,
I think this is
that's
like
neat though.
a cool like this is like a cool story, right? Of like
Mm,
this little like teenage boy who becomes something bigger. And I think you see it in a lot of things that come after, right? Like I think, it's a similar Harry Potter has the same hero's journey,
mm-hmm.
the Hunger Games, like all these things where it's like you are kind of like the chosen one to
Right.
sort of fulfill this mission, topple this evil
And at first though
thing.
you're not recognized as such, or
Right.
that or
Right.
some people doubt your abilities or doubt your and
Exactly.
yeah.
There's reluctance, right?
Hmm.
There's
Yeah, and some uh maybe timidness,
mhm. Mhm.
and or some like you said, reluctance, or or dis self-doubt,
Yeah.
a lot of that. What
Mhm.
and George Lucas said he didn't want a science fiction movie. He wrote a space opera,
Yeah.
and that's really what it is.
Mhm.
It has the acts.
Mhm.
It has the opening and so on, and then the development of the story. It's not a what like I said, I alluded to science fiction movies from the 50s and the 60s, and and they were and of course after this movie came out, my god, everybody
Yeah.
and their brother wanted to make a Star Wars movie,
Mhm.
and they tried to anyway, so
Yeah. I
um
read too, and I don't know if you've seen this movie. I haven't. That this took a lot of inspiration, and this was like a B movie, but Flash Gordon.
oh yeah. Hmm. Great
It's
soundtrack, by the way, by Queen.
Queen. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's all I know about Flash Gordon.
Oh
Flash.
yeah, no, it's
Ah.
yeah,
That's all I know.
mhm, and that's a campy movie from I think it's 1980 or around there, but it's a lot better movie than I think what people give it credit for. And like,
Hmm. But anyways, I think that it's just like Star Wars. This is another thing that sort of just revolutionized everything that came after it.
I
Right. It
agree.
just like opens up a new world.
Well, and all of a sudden science fiction became cool again, or became
Yeah.
profitable. It became
And like critically respected, right?
yeah.
Because like Sir Alec Guinness was nominated for an Oscar for
Hmm.
like best supporting actor.
Best supporting
It was
actor.
nominated for like best picture and best director. It's like it was nominated for those awards. I think, as I said, it won a lot of the
Won a lot of the
technical.
technical stuff,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah. So I think that if nothing else, you look at this movie all these years later, the dynasty it's created. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the people that follow it. I mean, zealously. In every nuance, every detail, every
Yeah.
little thing that certainly more so than I get into it.
Yeah.
But I've always been a big fan ever
Some
since the
of them
first
need to
movie.
chill out.
Yes, it's
Some of them are too
they
much. They get
and
like the thing is, right? There's always new Star Wars stuff coming out. Great. Here's the thing, this one still exists. Like the new Star Wars show on Disney Plus doesn't is not going to ruin your childhood because you can still watch this one. Like
exactly, yeah,
this one
don't
still exists. So
yeah,
you don't have to like be a dick to like the actor in the new thing because you don't like it. Just don't watch it.
just
Just
yeah,
watch this one. Turn
or
this one on again.
or at least and I think Lindsay and I have shared this experience. We enjoy watching, at least giving it a try, if nothing else. We want to
Right.
see what there is to offer. This
Hmm.
isn't the end all to be all, but it
Right.
was the beginning of it. So yes, there have been worse movies that have been put out from this, but like I said, Empire Strikes Back, I think, is technically and visually maybe a better movie and story
Yeah.
wise.
Right. And I think even some of the newer ones, like Rogue One, I think is
Rogue
a really
One
good
was
movie.
excellent. And which was, yes, I really enjoyed that. The last three of the trilogy,
Hmm.
of those two, I really liked. I
Hmm.
won't say that I cared for the last one very much,
Yeah.
as much.
They lost me a little bit in the last one, but like seeing The Force Awakens,
The nine or whatever it was, or
yeah,
number seven,
seven,
whatever
yeah.
number seven, and number eight
Hmm.
were really good. I thought, like
Yeah.
the middle three, there were parts and stuff, but that's the last the last three, the two beginning ones brought me back to where these were, the original
Hmm.
three. But
Hmm.
it had that same feeling of wonder, and maybe, and revelations and stuff like that, and other things. So the middle three were okay. There were good parts in it. Like I said,
Hmm.
the sword fight with Darth Maul was unbelievable.
Yeah. I think that there were
I think
good
that's the best one.
moments. And I liked Ewan McGregor as like young
Loved,
Obi-Wan. I think he's
and I
good.
like Natalie Portman.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
thought she
Hmm.
was excellent, and I think maybe as the years go by that maybe people should be a little kinder to the guy that played
Hayden Christensen.
Hayden Christensen.
Yeah. We get Samuel L. Jackson with a purple
Oh my
lightsaber
God, yeah, because
because he wanted a
he
purple
wanted a
lightsaber.
purple lightsaber, and so because he's Samuel L. Jackson, he gets a purple lightsaber. But
Exactly.
yeah, so
But yeah, I mean, I think, listen, sometimes George Lucas got a little into his mythology
yeah,
there, but I also think that there is the storyline of like how a democracy turn like falls
mhm,
is an interesting one and also feels like a little bit too close to home some days.
still
I
relevant.
always think of the line, I think it's from the third one where they like vote the like special powers for Chancellor Palpatine
Oh,
and everyone's clapping and I think Amidala says this is how democracy dies, like to
dies,
thunderous applause or whatever. I
exactly.
think about that line because I'm like, this sometimes feels like real life, which is also the other thing that bothers me about like some like Star Wars fans are like, don't, why is it political? It's the same people that say like Star Trek shouldn't be political. And it's like, oh, so you like tell me you know nothing about Star Trek without telling me you know nothing about Star Trek. Like,
Gene Roddenberry wrote Star Trek because he couldn't write about other stuff without putting it in science fiction. Twilight Zone was the same way. Rod Serling put stuff in the Twilight Zone shows because he couldn't write about them in straight stories, so he had to put it in the realm of fantasy and magic, or whatever it may be.
right. And
Yeah,
Star Wars is like blatantly about like fascism, right?
it,
Like these are obviously they're Nazis.
they
These are
look
space
like Nazi
Nazis. They're called
uniforms.
stormtroopers.
Exactly, which is what the Nazis
Nazis
were
were
called,
called. Like
stormtroopers.
the boots, even in like the newer movies too, like I think
Oh,
like the First Order,
oh yeah,
they have this sort of like jodhpur type
oh
pants
yeah.
and
Well,
stuff.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
they're
Yeah,
friggin' goose stepping all over the like eh,
it's it.
it's and I have read, as we were discussing, that George Lucas also drew some inspiration from Richard Nixon's efforts to consolidate his power and resist
Which I
democratic
had no
institutions.
idea until you said that. And but you know what, it makes sense. And because growing up in that time period, this is when all this was happening.
Hmm.
Nixon resigned, in the 70s and stuff. So I remember that very well.
Hmm.
That was all part of the political climate
Yeah.
at the time. So
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading actually like a few different things about kind of who he was inspired by. The, antagonists, he imagined an oppressive empire of evil inspired by the Nazi regime, Palpatine, inspired by the likes of Julius Caesar, Napoleon Bonaparte, and Adolf Hitler, but most directly by Richard Nixon.
how'd you like to be mentioned in that group of people?
right? Written in the mid-1970s, the original Star Wars trilogy loosely reflects the story of the Nixon administration's role in the Vietnam War, which ended in 1975. President Nixon was seen by many as a deceitful tyrant due to the Watergate scandal and his involvement in the Vietnam War. So, in the 2013 book, The Making of the Return of the Jedi, Lucas is quoted in an interview excerpt from 1981. Asked whether Palpatine was a Jedi, he replied, "No, he was a politician. Richard M. Nixon was his name. He subverted the Senate and finally took over and became an imperial guy, and he was really evil, but he pretended to be a nice guy." Palpatine's attitude is reflective of Nixon's when he famously stated, "If the president does it, it's not illegal."
Boy, does that hit close to home.
Yeah. Right?
Uh-huh. Or as more, I guess, more to the point, it's even more relevant today than it was 50 years ago.
Exactly. Exactly. I also read in the same article that apparently he based Han Solo on his friend Francis Ford Coppola.
Okay.
Apparently he was like very reckless.
Really? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
whatever. So I wonder if he based like Luke Skywalker on. We know he
I don't
based
know.
Chewbacca on his dog.
I love that.
Don't you? Whose
Yeah,
dog, and his dog name was Indiana,
well, there we
which is
go.
why he named Indiana Jones. Yeah, that's where he got the name Indiana Jones. Remember, and they even made a running joke that the dog's name was Indiana in the movies. But
I wish I remember exactly when I first saw these movies, but I just like I said, I just think that they've
yeah,
like been
no,
on, you
I could,
know?
yeah, because there's movies that you talk about, that I saw either maybe on TV or something, but not at the
Hmm.
movie theater. But I can't remember exactly. This, the movies, like I never saw Casablanca at the movie theater, but
Yeah.
I don't remember the first time I ever saw it, but I remember it made such a big impact on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I
but
feel
these
like,
movies,
yeah.
like I can
These ones
remember.
just felt like it was
Mhm.
like culture,
Yeah,
basically, right?
yeah,
I think that's what like Star Wars is. Like it has ascended from just
it,
movies. It is culture.
culture
Like
now. It is.
these are the movies that you go and people are in full outfits to
This is
see
why
them.
Comic Con was
Right.
born, because people wanted to dress up. Well, Star Trek, and stuff like that,
Mhm.
but they wanted
Mhm.
they wanted to dress or be part of this universe or part of this world, this and they like you said, to the point where some maybe take it a little bit too far, but hey,
Yeah.
so
Everybody enjoy your stuff, but just be nice about it.
yeah,
Just, you
exactly,
know.
and so one of my favorite Super Bowl commercials is still the one where the little kid is dressed as Darth Vader
Oh
and
my
he tries
God.
to do things and his dad starts the car electronically
Yes.
and the kid thinks
I
he started the
love
car.
that.
I
I love
I
that
mean that
one.
I mean that's only been a few years ago, and that's 40 years after the first movie comes out, and then
Mhm.
it still means that much where you do that. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're trying to build. I think they've built a real lightsaber.
Mm.
I think someone has actually built one, I believe. I don't know. I have to look at that. I thought I read somewhere that someone had actually made a working lightsaber. I don't know if it has the same destructive power, but anyway.
I would hope not.
Oh God, I was hoping so.
I suppose I worry about it falling into the wrong hands,
Oh,
but
that's always going to fall into the wrong hands. Come on now. So,
that's
but
true. That's the
the
point of making a weapon, I
a
guess.
weapon,
We
yeah.
all
So,
watched
but
Oppenheimer.
exactly, yeah. Come on, that was we all knew what how that was going to go. But yeah, I'm hoping that that they if they made one, I want one. So
I want the Darth Maul double.
I'd be too scared of that one. That or the one that spins around, the
Oh
one that
yeah.
the other one
From
out of
from the Obi-Wan show.
yeah, from the Obi-Wan show. That
Hmm.
that that one was kind of the
The
no,
Inquisitor.
I just want the single one. So, but yeah, Darth Maul's, even though he could break it in half. I mean,
Yes. And then you
yeah, exactly. Like,
I
well,
used to do karate, I got a
oh, okay. So
little
yeah,
something. I
well,
had a
like
bow staff.
the Rosario Dawson's character,
Ahsoka Tano.
yeah, has the two,
Yeah, she does the
but
two.
anyway, so
Yeah, it reminds me when I was in high school, I in art class I sat next to this boy
sorry.
and we used to have like fake lightsaber fights, and we would just go like, vroom,
Oh,
and
yeah.
start, and then I would be like, oh, mine's like Darth Maul's has another end, vroom, and then we would just.
It's just
It's the nerd. This is the nerdiest thing in the world that I'm saying. We were just
mhm.
miming a lightsaber fight in the middle of art class, but we used to do it all the time, and we'd just make the noises.
Well, because for the longest time it was, you always, as a well, I was 20 years old when this came out, but you sit there and like they would come out with like the fake, the toy lightsabers and stuff, and they had the thing where
Hmm.
it was an inflatable or whatever, or
Yeah.
the thing, and then
Hmm.
it was just all this other stuff. But yet you were sitting there thinking, man, if I could only have a lightsaber.
Hmm.
So, but anyway,
Yeah. It's a phenomenon though.
it really is, and worldwide. I mean,
Yeah.
it isn't just contained to the United States by any stretch of the
I
imagination.
remember my mom and my aunt talking about like seeing people, like the lines of people like lining up to
It was the
go
same, yeah. It was the same
to
with
go see
Jaws.
it.
Like I said, Jaws was the first movie that I remember seeing people stand in line. Well, I'll take that back. Probably The Godfather. But
Mm,
but I remember, like I said, working across the street from the theater where Jaws was, and then Star Wars. It was the same thing because
mhm.
before you just went and bought a ticket
Yeah.
and you could go see the movie. This is when shows started selling out. It's like,
Mhm,
oh
mhm,
no, that show's sold out. You go up to the window and it's like sold out, like
mhm,
for the popular times or whatever. Because like I said, we went to go see it. If we were in college, so if it was playing during the day, we'd cut class, so we'd go see it,
of
in the middle of the afternoon. But the
course.
first time was at, in the evening, like a
Mhm,
regular time, like, whatever. That first one, boy, that was, because that was, oh, you'd go see it with buddies, but then you'd say, hey, to a girl, you want to go see Star Wars.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
there's this, princess, and, because they'd say, oh, it's all that science fiction stuff. Oh no, there's a princess, and there's, romance, and, and all this other stuff. Yeah.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford, he's good looking. Luke Skywalker, or Mark Hamill before the car accident.
Mhm.
You know, um, so I don't know if there is a subtle change.
Yeah,
In the
yeah.
middle of this, he had a bad car accident. He had to have surgery, plastic
Mm.
surgery.
He looks a little, I don't know. Not for me. Not for me. Love Mark
Oh no,
Hamill. Not for me.
um, but the
Harrison
other thing,
Ford.
Harrison Ford. The other thing was, this is how every guy that I knew wore his hair back then
Yeah.
too. My hair looked like that. Every guy I went to
Mhm.
school looked
That's what my
like
dad's
that.
hair looked like when I see
He's
pictures of him.
we all look, as my dad said, we all look like Prince Valiant. He had the, the
Or
sort of,
he's like David Cassidy.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Although, boy, I'd kill for David Cassidy's hair back then. Of course, he probably had some guy cutting it for $100 a time. It had that
Yeah.
great layered look. It
Mhm,
wasn't.
mhm.
We didn't have that. So, but yeah, trying to get somebody to cut your hair in a little town in West Virginia where you look like everybody else did on the movie screen, that was kind of
Yeah.
tough.
But yeah, and I
So,
mean this like for those three main people,
hmm.
this had to be like a rocket
Oh yeah.
to,
Well,
because Harrison Ford had been in
he was in American Graffiti,
American Graffiti.
and they didn't
And
want to put him in this. They used him to read lines with, but they were
mhm,
trying to find somebody else to play Han Solo, and I can't
mhm,
remember. There were some other people considered, but they didn't like any of them, and they finally, because George said no. He goes, because I've already used him. He wanted unknowns,
mhm,
and he said
mhm.
people will know, will know Harrison,
Yeah.
but
Did
and it was
people
this.
know Carrie Fisher?
She had, I think they knew who she was only because of who her mom was.
Mhm.
But I think she'd been in maybe one or two movies before this, but nothing major. This was the first, and Mark Hamill hadn't been in anything, I don't think.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, yeah, can you imagine being, that, and then, you're, oh, I'm going to be in this space movie, and then 48 years later, this is, I mean, Mark Hamill could walk into a room and it'll just erupt,
Right.
you know, over nothing, people,
Exactly.
and I'm sure as any of them could, and sadly, a lot of the original actors are gone. I
Mhm.
think the guy that played C-3PO is still alive.
He's still alive,
He's
but
still alive.
the Peter Mayhew from who played Chewbacca is
Chewbacca is
gone.
gone. So
Alec
is
Guinness.
the Darth Vader.
Yeah, the guy who did the physical thing. Yeah.
David.
I
The
have
other
the
thing too was that James Earl Jones was not originally credited in the first movie as the voice of Darth Vader.
David
He was not in.
Prowse. You
Yeah,
were right. His name's David.
he was not in the credits. I noticed on this one that he was. You
Mm-hmm.
know, in the voice of James. He was not credited in the first movie as the voice of Darth Vader. So,
Yeah.
and then also the fellow that played R2D2 was in the R2D2.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
there was a person inside that.
Yeah. Because later it was Warwick Davis,
Mm-hmm.
who also played an
An
Ewok.
Ewok. Ewok.
Warwick Davis, people my age might know as he's Professor Flitwick in the Harry Potter movies.
Harry Potter movies.
And he plays, I think, also Grip Hooked Goblin. He plays a couple
Oh, okay.
characters there too. But
Um,
yes. But he was like young because I've seen pictures. There are pictures from Return of the Jedi with Warwick, like a very young Warwick Davis and Carrie Fisher.
oh, okay. He was good. But again, I think because he was looking for unknowns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He didn't want, although he did have Peter Cushing and Alec Guinness, who were known as serious actors.
Yeah. It said he wanted someone established to
Mm-hmm.
play Obi-Wan. And
And
he considered Peter Cushing for the role, but then because of his he has the lean, like gaunt
mm-hmm.
face, he was like, no, you're a villain.
Yeah.
You're a bad guy.
And I think I read Guinness turned it down several times. And then I think they made him they made him a financial offer that I think he got 2.5% of the gross.
Mm-hmm.
Can
So
you
he was
imagine
rolling in
rolling
dough.
in it after about 3 or 4 years? Now, granted, he was he was up in age, but even still, can you imagine what what his take of, and I'm sure that continued on in his estate.
Mm-hmm.
The residuals from that. Good Lord. Can you
Yeah,
imagine?
for sure.
So yeah, so there were, people and so on, that were, considered, but looking back, like I said, it's I think the people that they selected, of course, Harrison Ford's gone on to do a ton of other things.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie Fisher, who did do other movies, but is probably most well known for this
Yeah.
role.
Yeah. And I think just for like I think like this role and then just like her life
Oh
more
yeah,
so than like
yeah, yeah.
because she's in like When Harry Met Sally and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
but she also like
The
wrote
Blues Brothers. She's
yeah.
great in the Blues Brothers.
She wrote Postcards from the Edge and like was very open about her life
Yeah,
and her struggles
and her
and
problems. So,
stuff
and
like
look who her
that.
dad
So
was.
yeah. And I mean I'm sure that like her having her mom be her mom was not easy either.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And then she also ended up with like Elizabeth Taylor was like her stepmother for a while and
Right,
like
exactly. Yeah. So, and then, another spoiler alert for those of you who didn't know. By the way, her and Harrison had a fling during the making of this movie.
yeah.
So, yeah. So Han and Leia, you know, were a,
IRL.
were an item, but, in real life as well. So,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
just to
Yes.
let y'all know.
Exactly. And Mark Hamill, I mean, I think I do feel like Mark Hamill is probably most known for this, but he's done a lot of voice work since then. He did
A ton of voice work.
he's done the Joker a lot in
Yeah.
like animated Batman series and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But
And
like I think of him as I mean, I think people think of him as Luke Skywalker.
Oh yeah. So and of course, he reprised it in the last
Yeah.
the last two.
Yes. And
Last
same
two.
with Carrie Fisher. She
Yeah.
was in the last she
and
was in the
Harrison.
first two and then she passed away, so they had to kind of put together like from her
And
footage they
Harrison was
had.
in the first
Yeah, he was in the
two.
first one.
The first one.
Won't tell you what happened to him, but he's not in the other ones. Put two and two together, everybody. Sorry, spoiler.
But anyway, so that was my pick, and I hope you enjoyed seeing it again.
Of course. Of
Yeah,
course.
so I could watch this movie over and over and over again. I could, you know, it never fails to even looking at it now. Like I said, if you well, like watching it on the my screen here at home,
Mhm.
you know, you think, oh, you know, costuming and stuff, they cut a few corners on and stuff like that, but it sort of adds to the charm of the movie, I think.
Mhm.
You know, back
Yes.
before everything was done electronically or
Yeah.
digitally, you know.
Yeah. And I think George Lucas said that like his goal was to make a future that looked like used. Like he said
Yeah.
that I was just reading, like, you know, a lot of future movies, everything's like shiny and perfect. And he's like, I want it to look like a used future, right? So like
Hmm.
that's why like the Millennium
Well,
Falcon looks like a hunk of junk, right? Because it's like it's been flown around.
well,
That's what stuff looks like when people use it.
even the fighters and stuff at the end of the movie, they're all, you know, they're all, you can tell they're trying to keep them in, you know, like putting them together with chewing gum and baling wire, as they used
Right.
to
And I
say.
think the thing, like, that makes sense, right? Because if this is a rebellion, this is underground. They're using whatever they can find, right? These are
Exactly.
not like brand new,
Yeah, they don't
fresh
have a
built
budget. Yeah, we're
planes. They are like, these are leftover from whatever thing from
from
before. Let's see if we can get them working. Let's see if we can
right.
like hotwire these things or whatever.
Exactly. Can we keep this thing in you know, flying, or you know, let's see if we
Yeah.
can, you know, keep this thing going, or whatever. We're scrounging here. So
Exactly. Exactly. So I think it that like lends to like the authenticity of it.
I agree. Yeah, because it does. It looks like, you know, because you know, you don't step outside and everybody's driving a brand new car. Everybody's, you know, everybody's
Right.
clothes look, you know, spotless and clean, and all the houses have looked freshly painted or whatever. So
Mhm, mhm.
yeah.
And if you
So
think like even like in real life, right, when there have been the French Resistance in World War II, they were not using brand new weaponry.
oh
They were using
no.
whatever they got smuggled to them.
That, or if they killed a bunch of Germans, they
Right.
took
Or
their
what they
weapons
could
off
take
of
off
them.
people. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think
Yes.
that's what like why the rebels look like everything is very lived in
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and
So
there is some uniformity, but not you know, where it's like the stormtroopers, where everybody's in, you
mhm.
know, it's like, oh, you know, you guys went to the quartermasters and you got your outfits and your gear and
Yeah.
stuff. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, look here, I found a pair of boots, or I, you know, I got, you know, I got a blaster off of so and so who fell over, you know.
Exactly. That Luke's got his little grappling hook that he took from
Yeah, that, you know,
the
he, yeah,
stormtrooper belt. Everybody's
exactly.
just
Yeah, you know, you're
figuring
doing
things
the
out.
best you got with what you got. So
Exactly. Exactly. Well,
so
I think once again, a classic for a reason.
yeah, I agree. I'm glad you agree with that. So, and then I hope our audience likes it as well. So, and you know, it really, if you haven't watched the movie, you know, you should. I think it's
Yeah.
nothing. I don't care if you don't like science fiction. It's not science fiction. It's really not. So it's
Right.
not in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like we said, the story is like a classic kind of following a
Hmm.
hero on his journey, right?
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
can take place. It just happens to take place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Far away. So, and it is, it's a cultural classic, I think, and an icon. And
Right. I mean, it like it changed culture. That's why like there's all this stuff,
yeah.
shows, and the you can go to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disney World and all that stuff. So,
Or you can mention Han Solo, or you can mention, you know, Luke Skywalker, and people know exactly who you're talking about. And
mhm,
you could be in Russia, or you can be in Antarctica,
right.
and
May
they'll
the
know.
force be with you
Hmm.
is universal.
Exactly. So that's why we celebrated on May the 4th.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
well, thank you again for humoring me and enjoying and watching the movie. And I'm glad you enjoyed seeing it again.
Of
So,
course. Of course. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also leave us a rating, or review, comment, hopefully something nice. You can also follow us on Instagram at Some of Our Parts Pod. You can see all the other movies that we've talked about and get some clues about what's to come. And with that, bye bye.
take care.
And may the force be with you.